Hello everyone, if you're new to my channel, consider liking and subscribing. It will make me feel wonderful if you do that. Thanks. By the way, I also have another Naruto and Luffy fanfiction channel. If you are interested, link is in the description. Koby's Choice by Sword of the Gods, Axe Hand. Morgan single-handedly shattered Koby's faith in the Marines, breaking his dreams. If a pirate is the first one to ever show you kindness in a world run by a corrupt justice, who do you follow? Well, the future king of the pirates, of course. I don't own anything. Adios.
One of Frankie's marine buddies muttered. Does anyone else see that? See what? He pointed his sword toward the carpus Amy had severed. The tan-white flesh there was wiggling. The crab eel started to shrink, its mass shifting and changing as it grew a new claw from rest of its body. The other creature mirrored this, new legs growing from the bases of the old. That's just not fair, Amy whined. All right, let's go for the head, then. Amy led the second charge at the now smaller eel crabs, her hockey-coated umbrella held out to her side. Shifting her mass within her body as she'd trained extensively to be able to do, the blonde launched herself into the air. She flipped over herself, building momentum before she fell on crab number 1 with another obsidian mallet. It cried out as its shell cracked, exposing its softer insides through the openings. The Marines carrying guns took aim quickly, firing rounds into its fleshy parts before the shell could knit itself back together. If nothing else, they would be an annoyance for the hulking maritime creature as it moved to attack them. And move it did, bringing one of its claws up to grab at the baker on its shell. Its aim was off, however, since its eyes and head was focused on the larger group in the snow. Amy jumped straight upward, letting the regrown claw snap at the air fruitlessly. The other claw shot toward the group, prompting Frankie to put himself between it and the Marines. His large arms reached forward, catching the crab's pollux on either side. The sharpened ridges cut through the faux flesh he wore, scraping against the metal beneath but unable to tighten its grip around the cyborg. BB boom. 3 cannonballs shot from the Sunny, slamming into the second crab monstrosity that has been trying to flank them despite Zoro's efforts. It screeched, the momentum of the projectiles staggering it and denting the shell. Wah? Billy Zoro questioned as the creature skittered backward. Sunny, the kids, Amy yelled. I couldn't just sit here and do nothing, Sunny yelled back from her railing. She was still beached ashore, the children chained against her hull. Something doesn't feel right, but I don't know what. Her actions, however, had consequences. The attack sent powerful vibrations through her wood, rattling the chains and waking the children. They moved slowly, their hands instantly going to their heads or stomachs as the pain of their withdrawals crept up on them. Brook redoubled his musical efforts, but the children were already awake. Ra'awug. Sin screamed, his arms flexing as his hands hooked the chains holding him and the other children. The smaller ones tried to do the same, but their strength was incomparable to those who had started their gigantification. They made short work of the bindings, the larger ones pushing Sunny's hull in anger. The ship barely wobbled, but the fact that they could make her whole ship move at all was a testament to their strength. Candy, they shouted. Give us candy, we need it. Stop, Mocha begged, clutching her head with a pained expression. Please, everyone. We need to help the kids, Toon cried. We need to help ourselves first, another Marine replied, pointing his sword at the crab eels. Said monsters had come up with a new strategy, banging their claws on the ground before them as they started this zigzagging pattern toward the pirates and Marines. What do we do? Frankie questioned. Wah, we can't understand you, sword bro. Within the pirate ship, Chopper froze, his hoof suspended in the air as he nearly spilled a test tube of chemicals from the sudden rocking of the Sunny. Quickly, he grabbed stoppers to ensure no chemicals mixed or spilled accidentally and jumped from the chair he'd been standing on. Sunny, the reindeer doctor called. What's going on out there in Terabang? Things are going from bad to worse, the voice of their ship answered from the walls. Chopper, Grace, Billy, and Zoro Grace traded uneasy glances. I'll go check it out, G. Billy offered, hurrying to the door. I think we need to get ready to move, Z. Grace commented, Chopper matching her with a nod as the pair quickly, but carefully, started gathering the materials together for shipment. G. Billy ran onto the deck, meeting Brooke there as the skeleton tried to come up with a plan. What's happening? Bones makes music. We seem to be in a conundrum, Billy, the musician replied. Sunny could not explain, but she insists something more dangerous is coming this direction and that we must finish the battle with the creatures there quickly. They are proving to be quite resilient, however. Creatures? The bird trapped in a girl's body echoed. What creatures? Why those, of course. The skeleton raised one bony digit to point out over the railing toward where most of the adults were facing off against Velo's creations. As the pair watched, Zoro in Billy's body met the head of the first crab eel, its needle-like teeth scraping against Wado Ichimonji in the duck's beak. The eel lit up with electricity, the lightning affecting the body of the thunderbird in no way. Zoro smirked through his borrowed beak. pushing the eel head back and swiping upward, his blade carving a gash through one of the creature's eyes. It flailed in pain, smacking the sword's duck with its head like a flail. Angry Moss, Billy cried, more out of fear for his own body than worry about the swordman within. The duck's borrowed eyes rose to the background of the chaotic scene. Bones makes music, do you see that? I don't have eyes to see, Brooke pointed out. Billy pointed his borrowed finger at something in the distance. Oh, what is that? It looks like a giant, purple cloud, and it's getting closer. Sunny fired another cannonball, the projectile slamming into the face of the second crab eel before it could snap up one of the marines. It screamed and retreated again, the last hit far more painful than the ones that had hit its exoskeleton. Shalalololo. A high-pitched voice laughed, dragging attention to the purple cloud Billy had referred to. There, floating over the chaos, was Caesar Clown, his gaseous body swirling. Greetings, pirates and marines. It is I, Dr. Caesar Clown, head of this laboratory. So you're the sick freak who's been drugging these kids, Amy growled. Candy, the kids yelled, recognizing the man. Now, kiddos, the horned scientist muttered. Be good and you'll get your candy. Let me talk to these stupid adults for a moment. He turned back to the fighters, his face twisting into a snarl. I'll need to abandon this place because of all of you, he growled. I hope you're happy. Gotta admit, Frankie shrugged, it feels super good. Yes, well, let's see how good you feel when my Shinokuni gets you. But I won't just douse you all with it. Where's the fun in that? I'd rather watch you all struggle until it eventually overcomes the lot of you. That way you can't say I didn't give you a chance. You just weren't good enough. But let me show you what you're running from. Caesar pointed a hand downward, directing a spray of purple gas over the second crab eel. The gray of its body turned to more of a stone color like concrete, the creature's movement slowing before stopping altogether. In moments, the beast was nothing more than a statue. What the hell? Marines demanded. It turned to stone, Amy questioned. No way. Toon muttered. That's right, Caesar laughed, reabsorbing the gas before it could go anywhere. Shinokuni is a petrification gas for chemical warfare, and I've already got several kingdoms interested in buying it, but I need to show results for them. Don't you worry, though. I said I'd give you a chance and I will. After all, those kingdoms need to see that it can't be escaped. He backed up several hundred feet, still able to see the ships in the distance and they, in turn, able to pick out his giant, purple body from the snow. Bringing his hands together, he poured the Shinokuni gas toward the ground where it started to spread. And go, Shilolololo, or get the crab, inside, Frankie suggested. Those doors should be super tight enough to keep out the gas. Candy, the kids raged. There's candy inside, Mocha whispered, trying to help through the pain as best she could. The children nearest her heard her quiet words, instantly latching onto the idea. Inside, candy inside, they chanted, their chorus growing in volume as the other kids heard the suggestion. The children charged the door, ripping it off the hinges in their haste. The doors, Amy gasped. After them, Toon yelled, gesturing for the Marines to abandon the shore for their own safety. We'll figure it out later, we have to get away from here now. What about our ship in Terabang? Frankie demanded. What about Sunny in Terabang? We don't know how the gas would super affect her. Get me to the water and I can get out to sea, Sunny suggested. Get me there and go, I'll be fine, promise. It will drain me, but I can lighten her mass long enough for us to get her out, Amy suggested as Billy led the crews chemically learned from the ship's interiors. Grace was using Zoro's superior strength to carry all their equipment, most of the group jumping to the snow while Sunny used a rope to lower Grace without jostling the chemicals too much. The other crab eel screamed as the gas caught it, turning its body to stone like its mate. Help us, Frankie ordered as Amy laid her hands on Sunny's hull. She focused, converting Sunny's mass to air, but she was a dense ship. The shipwright, Chopper in his arm point, Billy, B Zoro, and Grace in their mismatched bodies, Brooke, and Toon pressed against Sunny's side. Their combined strength and Amy's contribution slowly, oh so slowly, pushed the ship toward the water. Her keel ground against the earth through the snow, Sunny keeping an eye on the approaching cloud since she could do nothing to properly help. The edge of the gas cloud reached the marine ship. Its metal was left undamaged, but Sunny noted with worry that its wooden walls began to petrify on contact. The ship creaked as its density changed, sinking a couple feet. Sunny was made of atom wood, a material many shipwrights considered harder than metal if treated right, but it was still wood and Caesar's Shinokuni would affect her according to all evidence, and she would likely become too dense to float even if she made it back to the sea. Finally, just when she was about to tell her crew to abandon her and go, she felt her keel touch water. One more push, she called, giving the crew a heads up since they could not see the lake behind her hull. Readying themselves, those working together shoved Sunny that much further, her hull falling into the water enough for her to shimmy the rest of the way there. She moved her docking system instantly, switching to her paddleboat mode. I'm good. Get out of here before it gets you. Be super safe, Sunny, Frankie ordered as Amy collapsed, the use of her powers on such a large ship for extended time having drained her. Chopper lifted the chocolatier, throwing her over his shoulder as the pirates and Toon booked it toward the doorway. Sunny directed herself, paddling away from the Shinokuni toward the mouth of the lake as quickly as she could, her not eyes glancing back long enough to make sure her crew made it into the building. They paid no mind to any of the tied-up satyrs who had attacked the ship or the pair of giants still unconscious after Law's failed assault. Without help, the gas would claim them, too. Wah wah, Bizoro quacked as they ran through the doorway, the lab very dark compared to the perpetual snowy white outside. We know it's at our heels, Angry Moss, G. Billy translated. Just shut up and run. Wah, where is he going? Toon questioned. Wait, not that way, too late. G. Billy watched his body disappear down a different corridor, tail feathers flashing in the dark before vanishing. The only cold comfort, or was that the cold from the snow outside? Was that Bizoro still had Wado Ichimonji with him for defense? We'll find Zoro again later, Z. Grace insisted. He can take care of himself. We need to take care of the kids. If Angry Moss gets petrified in my body, it's on you, Girl Makes Colors. Don't worry, he's too stupid to be petrified. That is not how chemicals work, Chopper cut in. You know that, Grace. Since when has logic applied to any of our big four? Yo-ho-ho, Brooke laughed. She has a point, Chopper. We need to focus on finding the kids and stopping the gas right now, Toon interrupted. I can smell them, Chopper said, taking the lead at a fork. This way. All of the bugs are big, then all of the bugs are small. Kaku goes stabby stabby, Uncle goes kicky kicky, all the bugs go whoosh. Monkey genes run true. Donna, Jin chuckled from Nami's right side, the pair watching Ace as he insisted on riding on Bucktoof's back. The incomplete beast didn't seem to have a problem with it, but the child's pitch could use some work. At his young age, Jin was certain Brooke would do his best to make Ace have the voice of a professional singer by the time he was older. You've only seen half of it, Nami told him, remembering all the little things Ace did back on Weatheria that reminded her so much of Luffy. Bucktooth stopped, his ears perking up at something the others could not hear. Ace had only enough time to grab the creature's fur before he took off down the hallway. The rest of the pirates, and Kinnaman, ran after them, voicing their own worries or demands. Bucktooth didn't listen to any of them, turning two corners before slowing to a stop.
Go, the creature said. Go, Ace. Nami fretted, catching up and quickly pull Ace from Bucktooth's back.
Mommy, look! Ace pointed out over the small landing they'd come out on, a parade of children smashing their way through the lower level of the lab. Their eyes were red and bloodshot, all but Mocha at the end screaming about candy. Why are the kids back in here? Kaku questioned. Why are some of the others following behind them? Sanji asked, pointing to a group of Marines and pirates trying their best to catch up. I don't know, but let's find out, Nami answered. She jumped, each of the pirates finding their own way to land safely on the bottom floor. Hey, what's going on? Nami, Chopper blinked as the second group fell in alongside them. We can't stop, run. What is it? Nami and her group merged with the others. Where are we running from? What about Sunny? What happened to Amy? Sunny's fine, Frankie answered. And Baker Sis Super knocked herself out helping us get Sunny back into the water. Back, Jin blinked. What happened while we were gone? What about the others? Ace questioned. Why are they all angry? We have a lot to catch you up on, Zoro said with Grace's voice. Both mother and son blinked, staring at the swordsman. Long story short, the kids are addicted to a drug called NHC-10 that's been gigantifying some of them and we're running away from a petrifying gas that Caesar released on us outside. Mostly likely a hydrogen or beryllium-based reactionary that turns carbon into stone-like structures with an internalized exothermal reshifting, essentially changing the molecular structure of biomatter into rows similar to diamond or high-percentage shungite. You sound funny, Uncle Stupid Moss, the boy laughed. Why can't Grace just stop the gas? Nami asked at the same time. Zoro and Grace looked at each other before turning back to the navigator. Yeah, about that, Grace began, but it didn't sound like her. Well, I'm actually Billy and Girl Makes Colors is in Angry Moss's body. Until we can find Black Cloak Swap's souls to switch us back, we can't really use Girl Makes Colors powers. That explains the chemical jargon, Nami sighed. Wait, where's your body then, Billy? Zoro's in it, Z Grace answered, causing Nami to let out another, much harsher sigh. Nearer the back of the group, Sanji made no attempt to stifle his laughter at Zoro's misfortune. So let me get this straight, Kaku clarified. CA gas that turns living things into stone. A stone-like state, Z Grace clarified, and the children are suffering from withdrawal from some gigantification drug. NHC-10, also known as imidogon hydrocarbide, and you didn't close the insulation doors, why? The kids ripped them off the hinges, G Billy supplied. That just makes perfect sense. I told you our adventures don't follow logic, Kaku. The group paused. Mary practically falling from above them to land beside her former coworker. She punched him in the arm. Why else do you think we needed to build Sunny out of atom wood? Mary and Terabang, the group asked, said Klabouterman grinning wide. Mary, Ace cheered, jumping from Nami's arms to Mary's. You went with Daddy and the others. Where are they? Do you want to meet Bucktooth? Did you fight weird monster things, too? Whoa, slow down, Ace, Mary grinned. We need to all catch up with each other soon. Not here and not now, Chopper interrupted. We need to get somewhere the gas behind us can't reach us. Does anyone know the lab's layout? Smoker questioned, the rest of Mary's group catching up with the white-haired ship spirit. Where the hell is the Surgeon of Death? Wasn't he with you, cat burglar? Law's here, Coby blinked, the body of a long-necked bird draped over his shoulder. What followed was a myriad of quick greetings. The Marines rushed towards Smoker and Tashigi, tears in their eyes. The pink dragon around Luffy's neck abandoned his place, jumping instead to the half-samurai with a cry of, "Key father." The face the samurai made in his responsive, "What happened to you, Momonosuke and Terabang?" was funny in its own right. Robin raised an eyebrow as Zoro ducked behind Frankie but had to hide a smirk as Luffy rushed Nami, sweeping his wife into his arms before nuzzling her neck. "Nami," Luffy cheered, spinning her around. "I got something for you, I found her Klimatact." "Thank you, Luffy." Nami accepted her more perfect weapon, tucking the previous one in her coat. "Hey, where's everyone going?" Running from bad gas, Chopper offered. "Oh," the captain nodded. "Brook got in the beans again." "That's not what I meant, Luffy," Chopper yelled as Ace and Mary laughed. "There's a purple gas behind us that could turn you to stone." "Why doesn't Grace just stop it? She's right." He pointed at Zoro only to realize something was off. "Zoro? Why do you feel like Grace?" "Body swapping," Billy supplied. "It's been a problem." "Oh, yeah, I can see that." "Daddy," Ace cheered, jumping out of Mary's arms, off Usopp's face, and onto Luffy's shoulder. "Look, Mommy, I found Daddy." "More like he found us," the young mother commented despite her smile as Luffy grinned, ruffling his son's hair. "Ace, I have something for you, too, really in Terabang what in Terabang." There was a bang from somewhere ahead of them, the sound quickly followed by the cursing of several Marines. "What was that?" Frankie asked. "The kids broke another door that would have helped," Toon explained. "We need to get someone ahead of them before they do it again." "Horn and I can go," Kaku offered, earning a nod from Coby beside him. They glanced at each other before vanishing with Shave, both zone users reappearing ahead of the kids. This made the enraged children lock onto them, screaming something about candy animals and gummies. "Please find something fast," Chopper whispered. His prayers were answered a minute later as Coby and Kaku shouted something incomprehensible over the roaring of the children, ushering them through a door barely large enough for Sind and Mocha to get through. The Marines and pirates followed, Jin being the last one through before they shut the door, barring it closed. Sanji spun, activating his Hell Memories technique before kicking the door's edges, melting them in the doorway into metal slag that closed its gaps, rendering the door no better than any other wall. "One problem stalled, but we still need to stop the kids," Chopper noted. "I've almost got the next round of NHC-10 ready to calm them down, but that will still take a while." "Why's the floor wet?" Mary questioned, pointing to a slimy, green substance covering the aforementioned area. "The hell is this stuff?" Grace dropped to a knee, running a finger through it. Chopper passed off Amy's unconscious body to Jin before doing the same, the two conferring in low voices. "I'm no scientist," Kaku began, pointing to a tank with a nozzle dripping the same fluid, "but ain't that the symbol for stuff that's radioactive? That's bad juju, right?" "My legs," Kinnaman realized, still carrying the dragonoid form of Momonosuke as he reacclimated himself fully, doing a little tap dance.
This is a form of sulfhemoglobic blood, Chopper finally announced. It's blood with sulfur that prevents the normal amount of oxygen from binding to it, which changes the color from red to green. I can't tell you why it's here, though.
"Uncle Usopp," Mary suggested. "It's wet and we need to stop the kids. Use one of your plants." "I know just the one," the sniper nodded, pulling a seed from his satchel. "Green star, Sargasso." The seed bloomed into an ever-growing web of seaweed, sucking in the blood on the floor to aid in its growth. The Sargasso quickly surrounded the children, lifting them off the floor and restricting their movements. Only Mocha escaped the plants, the poor girl leaning against one of the tanks while clutching her head. Usopp's pleased smirk fell into worry quickly, however, as the green of his plant started to change and shift, becoming more of a red with yellow and orange dots. "Guys," he said, "that's not supposed to happen?" "Candy?" Sind questioned, studying the plant's new coloration. "No, not candy, guys, don't let them eat that. I don't know what it might do, but it can't be good." "White smog," Smoker yelled, his smoke covering the top of the multicolored seaweed. The children gagged at the smell, keeping them from trying to snack on the plants. The smoke became more thick, denser and denser until the children passed out. There. Problem solved. You can't knock kids out like that, Z Grace growled. It's bad for their brains and lungs. Would you rather they ate the weird seaweed, pirate hunter? I'm not Zoro, alright, we need to figure out what's going on, Coby yelled. Who wants to start? My head, Mocha groaned. I think your group should start, Dino bro, Frankie commented. I mean, you all were the first to leave. Yeah, that's fair, Coby admitted. Well, we explored the burning side of the island for a bit and fought this big, red dragon, which Zoro-sensei and I decapitated. Captain Luffy wanted to eat it, so he butchered it only to find out it had a clutch of eggs, only one of which survived the fight. That's your souvenir, Ace, Luffy cut in, taking the egg from Robin and handing it over to Ace. The boy's eyes stared at it in awe. Don't know anything about it, but I did say I'd get you something cool, and what's cooler than a baby dragon? You're the best, Daddy. Anyway, Coby continued, after the dragon, we found the talking legs stuck to its hide, saw a harpy, and had a bad feeling, so we returned to the sunny, but you guys were gone. With nothing else to do, we headed toward the other side of the island where a giraffe centaur ambushed us. Coby ignored the way Kaku's eyes sparkled at the idea of a giraffe centaur. We crossed the river to meet a bunch of other centaurs who invited us inside to get away from the coming avalanche. The biggest one, named Brownbeard, took us to meet the master, but Zoro-sensei disappeared en route. We then met the master and the harpy who ambushed us. I got thrown away, Luffy interrupted. That's where I met Momo and found all our stuff. Oh, I still have some of it. He proceeded to pass out the rest of his luggage, including Jin's tonfa and Amy's primary umbrella, even though she wasn't awake. That was good since the group had left her replacement in the snow while running from the gas. Usopp, Mary, Robin, and I woke up in a Coby said, getting back to his side of things. We ran into some monsters on our way to meet up with Nami and her group, including another dragon that really wanted the egg. We split up at one point since I sensed Captain Luffy, only to meet up with Mary and Robin again, after they'd found Smoker and Tashigi. Together we fought this bird. He gestured to the dead bird over his shoulder, and then we met up with you all. I'll go next, Nami offered. Shortly after you all left, we were ambushed by a group with sleep gas. Most of us woke up in a cell with the samurai's head. Kaku pointed out that Grace, Billy, Brooke, and Ace were missing and must have got away. We busted out and ended up finding these kids who begged us to help get them out. We made our way back to the ship only to find Brooke, Ace, and Sunny talking to Marines with Kinemon's torso. After some discussion, a group of us decided to go back in to find your group since Sunny had a bad feeling. That was probably you all getting ambushed. Anyway, Ace snuck along and we ended up finding Dr. Velo's lab and the human experiments she'd made. She abducted Ace and left her monsters to kill us. I sent Kaku and Kinemon ahead, but Velo got away from them. Eventually, we ran into Law who offered to take us to Caesar's main lab where we found Ace swallowed by a giant slug that was attacking Caesar. We saved Ace, but Caesar got away and Law said something about this Monet woman kidnapping Velo for something she knew. We met Bucktooth here, she gestured to the mountain lion bear dog thing that gave a weird gaw. Ace named him, and Law fell through a trapdoor. That's when Jin killed the lights, we fought a replicating bug, and made our way back here. Yo-ho, I guess I will recount the strangeness from the shore, Brooke offered. After waking, I found Grace, Billy, and Ace dressed for the snow. Grace entrusted young Ace to me and flew off with Billy to assess the island. While she was gone, I was attacked by Kinemon's torso before the pair of us were set upon by men attempting to take Sunny. While fighting them, Smoker and his marines arrived and struck some type of deal with Sunny and, in time, Nami and her retinue returned along with the children. After they returned inside, the warlord Law appeared with a pair of giants. Amy and Chopper dealt with them and, when Law was unable to find Ace, he retreated, but not before segmenting the lot of us including Sunny herself. We spent the next while with the children and marines returning us to our original shapes before working together to put Sunny back together. In that process, Zoro, Billy, and Grace returned, but they cited an interaction with Law that resulted in them swapping bodies. Afterward, the children began to show signs of withdrawal that Chopper and Grace identified as some dangerous, experimental chemical, so Sunny and I put the children to sleep with music while they got started on solving the problem. We were later attacked by a pair of large crabs before Caesar clowned himself, and that brings us here. Billy and I saw that harpy, too, Z Grace commented. We were trying to scout out a cave we found, but that harpy attacked us and chased us away. I caused an explosion to scare her off, but it was bigger than I expected it to be, apparently causing the avalanche. Sorry, she chuckled. We found Zoro wandering around in the snow and Law got the drop on us. After that, we made it back to the ship and here we are. And where exactly is here? Mary asked, studying the surroundings. The hell is this blood stuff Uncle Usopp's plants drank? I think Trafalgar Law mentioned something like this, Smoker commented. This is possibly the sad formula used in Caesar's process of growing his artificial devil fruits. Artificial fruits? 2/3 of the group questioned, is that even possible? Law would know more about it, Nami said. It was apparently a focus of Velo's research here, causing Monet to target her and decide to get rid of Caesar. At least, that's what he said. Okay. Luffy blinked. So we'll beat up Caesar then go find these Velnet people and beat them up. Sounds simple. It's never that simple, Captain, Coby sighed. He placed himself between Z Grace and G Billy, his eyes moving from one to the other. What? The artist in the swordsman's body demanded. I'm not kissing you like this. Damn it, Coby. While the body swap chemist raged at her bow, Luffy knelt before his son, the boy holding the egg his father had chosen to steal for him. Now Ace, Luffy said. I've never really had a pet before, but I think I know a few things after watching your mom with Billy and some of the stuff my brothers and I got into when we were little. They can be really hard to keep alive, but we aren't in the middle of a forest filled with monkeys and crocodiles and big cats and giant birds, so that might be easier for you. Also, you aren't allowed to eat your pets. Ace and Sabo were really clear about that point, no matter how tasty eggs are. Smoker's eyebrows practically shot through the roof. I know about pets, Daddy, Ace replied. Some of the old guys on Weatheria had pet birds and dogs and stuff. I know they gotta get fed and walked and bathed and things. Oh, Luffy blinked. Well, good, plus you've got all of us to help you. Hey, Daddy, since we've got this Eggy now, can we keep Bucktooth too? Gao, the creature in question added. I've already said no, Nami interrupted. Hatching a pet is one thing. Something I'm not happy to say is happening without my say-so. She directed a glare at Luffy, her husband chuckling and scratching the back of his head. But, raising one is at least easier to manage than taking in one that's full-grown. That's how we picked up Billy, though, Luffy pointed out. Nami didn't have a response to that, so she chose to drop the subject to be returned to later. Alright, everyone, she said, diverting the topic. Caesar's outside, yeah? How do we beat him up without turning to stone from that gas? Is it flammable? Sanji tried. It's possible, Z Grace replied. If it's reactive with carbon, then there's likely no carbon in it to convert into CO2 through burning. Well, unless the gas is hydrogen-based, but then that could be like setting off several tons of explosives at once. That could destroy the lab with us in it.
Then what can we do? Frankie asked. If we can find Law, I can get back in my body. With full access to my chem fruit, getting through that gas will be a cinch. Caesar Clown is rumored to be a logia, Smoker offered. Taking him down will require armament hockey.
Got it, Luffy and Jin grinned. Amy too, if and we can wake her up, Jin added. I wouldn't mind getting my swords through him a couple times, Coby commented, fingering his shokusha and imono. That might just get me past the threshold. I wouldn't mind knocking him around either, Sanji said. I haven't been able to kick a logia yet. Perfect, Nami nodded. Let's send a group to find Law and Zoro while another says here for the kids. As soon as we get everything figured out, we'll take out Caesar and get the heck out of here. And someone please find our baby Dens. Law stared at the room, a metaphorical stone falling in his gut. The table that had held the hearts of all Caesar's and trustworthy underlings sat empty, not a sign to be seen as to the current location of what it had held. Quickly, almost desperately, he raised a hand and activated a room, scanning everything in the area in the falling hopes of finding his heart. It wasn't there. Frustrated, Law drew his sword and cut the table in half, a curse coming to his lips. There were only two scenarios that could have played out, and his current ability to breathe indicated which it was. Wah! The sound of a quack made Law turn. His confusion matched part for part on that of the duck in the doorway. The duck's eyes widened, the gigafowl charging forward to swing the sword in his beak at the warlord. Law pulled his own sword around, catching the blade before it could slick. Pirate hunter, he ordered, his soles digging into the floor against the surprising strength of the swordsman trapped in the duck's body. I understand you must be angry with me, but we are now on the same side. Wah 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 wah, we do not have time to fight here. We must return to your crewmates and the Marines. Something necessary has gone missing and we must recover it. Wah, wah wah wah. If you must know, my heart has gone missing. Stolen, actually, and I am not waxing poetic. My powers can literally remove a person's heart and Caesar asked that I did that to show my loyalty. I'd intended to steal it back, but it appears Monet beat me dead, taking my heart and Velo with her when she fled. Zoro pulled back a little, sensing no dishonesty from the man. Still, he refused to take his eyes off the warlord since the man was the reason for his current plight. I promise, I will return you and your crewmates to their original bodies when we reconvene, but we must move quickly. Look, you can even keep the sword on my back the whole way, but we have to find them. Zoro took a moment to consider the other man's words. Usually, he wouldn't bother and would simply attack, but didn't Grace say they would only be able to get back to their original bodies if Law swapped them back? Sure, he could absolutely become the greatest swordsman in the world in Billy's body, no matter if it took him a few extra years, but he certainly wasn't keen on the idea. Slowly, Zoro backed off, choosing to trust Law until he gave him a reason not to. Wah. Wah wah ah. Wah. I don't know what that means, but I'll take it as agreement. Grace, Billy and Zoro. Grace insisted on being part of the group that went looking for Law. Koby opted to join them alongside Robin, Jin, and Tashigi.
Luffy was ready to go as well but decided that he trusted his crewmates to handle the trip without him, mostly because Jin offered to go in his place so they'd have at least one pirate proficient in armament hockey in case Caesar decided he got bored of waiting around. Luffy also didn't want to leave his family alone when a mad scientist might be actively out to get them, despite how fun chasing down Zoro in the body of a duck might be. Sanji almost chose to tag along, if for no other reason than to laugh at Zoro's misfortune alongside the female marine, but Jin insisted he stay to care for Amy until she woke up since he couldn't.
A quick search of the sad room found a ladder to a second level with a couple doors. Hopefully, the Shinokuni wouldn't become so dense that it rose upward to the second level, but they had to worry about Caesar Clown getting bored and coming after them. Still, between Robin and Koby's tracking capabilities and Tashigi and Jin's battle prowess, Luffy was sure they had nothing to worry about. That led them here, having wished the group luck and seen them out the door. Koby already trying to focus his observation to find the swordsman who couldn't find himself or a way out of a paper bag with half a dozen holes in it. Now what? Ace questioned, the boy leaning against the discolored seaweed that still held the unconscious children. He had unzipped his coat, the egg his father had gifted him, which he had lovingly dubbed Eggy until it decided to hatch, all but hidden within the confines of the boy's outer layer. Bucktooth lay beside him, eyes closed but ears perked. This is kind of boring now. We could practice our poneglyphic, Mary suggested, sitting on his other side. How about that? Really? Smoker grunted. You wish to speak in an illegal language in front of a marine commodore and his company? Look, Ace, the Clabouterman grinned. It'll make the bluecoats mad, and they change colors when they do. Do you want to see that? Oh, that sounds fun. Do you want to start? A? Oh yeah, yeah. A? E, I, kai, I. Smoker swallowed a snarl as the toddler and fairy giggled, making probably snide comments about him and his men in their very illegal language. Still, they had more pressing concerns than the immature pirate's choice of illegal words. He turned to the boy's parents, both of whom were now part of a circle containing most of the remaining pirates. Only the monster doctor remained outside, the human reindeer mixing chemicals carefully off to the side. Smoker didn't know what the monster doctor was trying to accomplish. At this point, it was probably better not to ask. More than likely, it was also illegal. Whatever it was, he hoped it was necessary. Sighing to himself, Smoker sunk into a sitting position within the circle of pirates, studying them now that the majority were together. The cat burglar leaned on Straw Hat's shoulder, soaking in his warmth and presence where she could still keep an eye on the air of chaos. The weightless woman was under the watchful eye of Black Leg, the chef having stripped his coat to make it a pillow for the woman to use until she woke up. The rest of the pirates, those being Long Nose, the Cyborg, Soul Cane, and Spring Wind, as well as the samurai, were in the middle of a discussion about how to move forward. We can't just super hole up here and wait, Frankie insisted. Why not? Usopp rebuffed. There are monsters and that gas out there. Why can't we just stay here? Think about all the super technology out there. This is another former lab of Dr. Vegapunk. There could be revelations of technology beyond anything anyone's ever thought of just sitting out there gathering dust. I'm with Usopp on this one, Kaku offered. Splitting up is what got us into such a big kerfuffle last time. The smart thing to do here is to wait for Horn and the others to come back with the pirate hunter and Law in tow and rifle through the lab once everything's solved. How do you know they'll find Law? Sanji questioned. We only stood against him for a moment, Brook commented. Still, I get this feeling in my bones that he is strong. He'll not lose his life to any of the creatures you say are roaming the halls. That's another reason to stay here, Nami pointed out. Sure, we could fight Velo's beasts, but why bother when they can fight each other for us? I mean, not all of them are hostile, Kaku pointed out, gesturing to Bucktooth who was on the verge of napping beside Ace. That does bring up a question. What are we gonna do with that cryptid? We can't keep him, Nami said before Luffy could get a word out. Yes, I know we kept Billy, but he was a special case. He helped me escape from Shiki's palace when he captured me the first time and helped you beat him for good, Luffy. Bucktooth, for all his amicability. Agreeableness, Captain, Brook translated. Luffy closed his mouth, his unspoken question answered. Isn't nearly as smart or beneficial. He can't fly, can't control electricity, and we can't tell if he understands common like Billy does. I don't want to just leave him here, though, Luffy said. Don't get me wrong, this island's cool and everything. I mean, half the island's hot enough to burn water. Which still doesn't make sense. Mary yelled from across the distance before jumping right back into her conversation in poneglyphic. And the other half's colder than drum. It's called the Sakura Kingdom now, Brook commented. It was one of my stops on my world tour, and that snow chilled me to the bone. But I don't want him to die as soon as we leave. So, in conclusion, this island is fun to explore but a crappy place to live. I don't want to leave Bucky here. Nami sighed, quietly accepting the creature's nickname. If we take Bucktooth with us, you and Ace will get attached and we won't be able to get rid of it at our next stop. We don't even really know where our next stop is. It's wherever the harpy took the doctor lady you were talking about. That's not what she meant, Luffy, Sanji said. We don't know what kind of place Monet took Velo. I can tell you, Smoker spoke up, the pirate's eyes turning on him. The Surgeon of Death said Velo worked for the Emperor Kaido and that Monet worked for the warlord Doflamingo. He is the current king of the country of Dressrosa. The island is practically one large city. Dressrosa, you say? Kinemon questioned, turning eyes on him. Momonosuke was wrapped around his neck, eyeing Kaku and Chopper with an uncertain look. That name sounds familiar. Why? Smoker blinked. I believe one of my allies is currently upon that island, or soon will be, the samurai answered. When Momonosuke was abducted along with a number of these children, there was only one island official ships were sailing to from the port. I managed to use you called it observation? I used my observation to follow the hints of Momonosuke's presence as best I could, bringing me here. My friend Kanjiro went on to Dressrosa in case we predicted incorrectly and I agreed to meet him there. What are the odds? Kaku breathed. With our crew. Frankie laughed. Super good. I'm not surprised in the least. But father, Momonosuke spoke up. Will Kanjiro recognize me like this? Honestly kid, it's weird you haven't changed back, Kaku noted. See, when I ate my devil fruit 2 years ago, nastiest thing ever. Just so y'all without know. First thing that happened was a transformation into my beast form. I clomped around like that for a few minutes before trying to change back and got my man beast form. After another couple minutes, back to human again. Fact that you're still like this is honestly a little worrying. Man beast form? The dragon echoed. I do not understand. Well, looky here. Kaku stepped out of the grow had enough room. His form started to grow. My devil fruit's called the ox fruit, model. Giraffe. It lets me do all the cool stuff giraffes can do. When he finished, he stood upright as a full giraffe, his head bent down to look at the group. This is what I call my beast form, cuz it's all beast and no man. I suppose that is self-explanatory, Kinemon grumbled. Clearly, he was still wary of anything pertaining to beastly pirates or any of these so-called zones for whatever reason. Kaku then started to shrink, rising onto 2 legs as his nose became more square. This, said he, is my man beast form cuz it's half man, half beast. Theoretically, you should get one, too, but one that's half dragon. More like horns, really. Horn? Who is this horn? He means Coby, Sanji answered. Oh, yes, Momo nodded. I got a glimpse of his transformation during the fight with the bird. I do wish he could have explained more, but we were short on time at that moment. Well, kid? Kaku prompted. Try to change back. Your powers might feel like this buzzing over your skin. If you want your human form, just try pulling that buzz inside you. That's how I think about it. Momonosuke narrowed his eyes, focusing inward to try to find that buzz Kaku mentioned. You can do it, the giraffe man insisted. Nothing is beyond you, Momonosuke, Kinemon said. You've got this, Momonosuke, Nami muttered, using her motherly voice out of habit. Poot. Shishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishishish. Luffy barely caught herself as his voice echoed through the room, joined in chorus by Ace, Mary, Frankie, Brooke, and a number of the Marines. Gee hee hee hee, bah ha 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 ha, ha 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 ha, you ho 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 ho. Do not laugh at Momonosuke, Kinemon insisted. I am certain that man's instructions were flawed. Nah, Luffy chuckled. Maybe Momo's just stupid. My name is Momonosuke and I am not stupid. Do not call Momonosuke stupid, pirate.
It's okay, Sanji said, trying to placate everyone involved. He breathed out a lungful of smoke. Being stupid isn't that bad, just look at Luffy. He's a moron but he's made it this far with a beautiful wife way outside his league, so being stupid can't be all bad.
Yeah, see, the pirate captain grinned. He blinked. Wait a second, hey, not in front of Ace, he'll think I'm stupid. Easy, Luffy, Nami muttered, setting her hand on his cheek. I love you just the way you are. Not being smart doesn't change that. I'm being ganged up on, the rubber man pouted as his crewmates laughed at his misery, drawing a circle on the floor with his finger. Nami laughed, lifting his hat to plant a soft kiss on the top of his head before replacing his treasure. Despite his pout, Luffy couldn't hold back a smile.
Pardon, Smoker interjected. I believe I am lacking some details. Did you receive your powers recently? As in, within this laboratory?
Yes, Momonosuke answered, turning to look at the Commodore. I do not know how long it has been since I was trapped within the waste disposal area, but it began directly after my transformation. I was there until Mr. Luffy found me, but I know at least one night passed. I arrived on this island 2 days ago, Kinemon commented. I am sorry to say that I do not know which actions of mine coincided with which actions of yours in the short term, Momonosuke. I was incapacitated in that cell for quite a while. I see, Smoker muttered. If that is the case, then your power's progression is as strange as the spring wind says. I am a logia myself, my devil fruit allowing me to turn into smoke, but I know many different zones in the ranks of the Marines. Of them, the longest tale I heard of their power acclamation was half an hour, that person having eaten a spider zone and having to learn how to walk with 8 legs. Sanji shivered. Sure, spiders weren't insects, but they were close enough, and burning Tarar and the spider monkey zombie back on Thriller Bark was not enough to alleviate that fear. I think I saw that guy, Luffy commented. Didn't fight him myself, though. My point, Smoker emphasized, ignoring the pirate, is that you should have returned to your human form by now. Tell me, what did this devil fruit look like? Like any other, I would think, Momonosuke answered. It was shaped like an apple, but its base color was a darker purple and it had yellow and orange spots, much like the seaweed over there. That's not what devil fruits look like, Momo, Luffy said. Each one is different, but they're all kinda swirly with bumps and stuff. I would have to agree, Smoker commented. I have seen many devil fruits in my time in the Marines, and each has carried a rather distinct pattern. Dots is not one of them. Then what did I eat? Momonosuke questioned. Well, Caesar Clown is making artificial devil fruits, isn't he? Nami questioned. Usopp's seaweed soaked up the green blood stuff and changed color to what Momo described, so I'd say the evidence is pretty clear. I suppose that makes sense, Brook nodded. If the activation method was different for other zones, then it makes sense for the fruit to have been different fundamentally. Yo-ho-ho. Momonosuke blinked at him. Skeleton. Restless spirit. Haunted man. Yokai. He screamed, falling off Kinemon's shoulder as Luffy laughed about him being stupid for just noticing. Something like orange smoke surrounded him, the boy hitting the ground with a thumb. He was no longer a dragon, Momonosuke's true form, that of a small child. He wore a pink kimono similar in make to Kinemon's but sized for his smaller frame. His head was almost too big for his body, the top of his head shaved but leading to a top knot made of his black hair in the back. Height-wise, Momonosuke stood only a little taller than Ace. So this is what you look like normally, Momo, Luffy grinned. I guess you really aren't an eel. Did you think I was lying in Terabang? The boy demanded. Kinda makes you wonder, Kaku diverted. We know you can't eat 2 devil fruit at the same time cause you'd pop like an overinflated weasel, but what if you had a normal devil fruit and one of these artificial fruits? I would rather we not experiment, even if we get our hands on some of them, Smoker pointed out. We don't have any real information on these Smiles Law mentioned, and considering the outcome of some of Velo's research, I'm not sure how humane it is. Right, like you have any leg to stand on about superhumane treatment with the organization you work for, Frankie muttered. I will admit, the Commodore began slowly, that the world government and the Marines might not have a spotless track record. Any organization, be it a country or a military, cannot last as long as the Marines have without a few dark spots. A few? Nami parroted. The Marines have enough disastrous footnotes from within our lifetimes to fill a dictionary. I understand why you might think that, Cat Berg. What about the Konami Islands being left in the hands of Arlong for 8 years? If you would let me, or nearly allowing Alabasta to be overtaken by a warlord. That was. What about the state-sanctioned slavery happening on Sabaody? And I suppose Ohara is just one of those dark spots, then? Ohara was a mistake, Smoker growled, panting. All of that was and is a mistake. The pirates practically recoiled from him, his own Marines staring at his back. He turned, glaring at the men. Men, everything we say here does not make it back to Captain Tashigi, am I clear? Why yes sir, the men responded. Smoker turned back to the group, his shoulders slumping. He ran a hand through his hair, his other pulling new cigars from his pockets.
Sanji offered his lighter, the Marine taking him up on his offer.
He sat there for a moment, puffing in the hopes that the taste of his favorite tobacco would help calm his nerves. Sensing the moodier atmosphere, Mary and Ace joined the circle, the latter taking a spot on Histon's straw hat. I don't know what to make of you and your crew, the man admitted. When you first slipped past me 2 years ago, I took that as a personal insult despite the interference from Buggy the Clown and your father.
No pirate had left Logatown except in chains since I'd been given that position. I held that standard for 3 years. And then you came. Not only did your crew escape, but so did Iron Mace, Alvida along with most of the Clown's crew. I took that personally and held you at fault. I followed you into the Grand Line against my superiors' suggestions, Tashigi following me just for another shot at your swordsman after he insulted her.
Uncle Stupid Moss wouldn't, Ace began only to stop. Well, maybe, but not on purpose. Uncle Coby calls him. The boy screwed up his face, trying to remember Koby's exact words, prickly and difficult. That's one way to put it, Sanji breathed, grinning around his cigarette. Yes, well, whatever it is, Tashigi wanted his head, Smoker continued, Ace staring at him with rapt attention. We met with you all at Alabasta. I doubt you remember it, Straw Hat.
You were more focused on meeting your brother, but Trihorn and the Magpie stayed behind to talk and keep me from giving chase. Tri-Horn saluted me. Every night after, I saw that salute in my head and I wondered what could have been. I asked myself what could make a boy with a salute like that turn away from the Marines before even enlisting. I couldn't stand it, and the promotion I received that I did not earn to cover up you saving the country only heaped coal on the fire.
Then we were called to Marineford. I heard that Vice Admiral Garp had captured Tri-Horn at Sabadi and he was set to be executed in 3 days' time after a stint in Impelled Down. He and Firefist were extradited before you could reach them, as I'm sure you remember, and the Marines prepared for what people now call the Great Summit War. That's right, Luffy realized. You caught me on the ice, but then let me go. Something about Coby not being evil, right? Correct. At least you remember that. Well, I had a chat with Tri-Horn before everything started, and I found his reasons for execution to be less than satisfactory for my tastes. He wasn't on that stand because of his own actions, but as a stand-in for the pirate hunter who had attacked a celestial dragon. And not only was this so much less than Law and Kid who killed celestial dragons, but those two were even pardoned for their actions after their escape. Don't ask me why. I don't know the full story. That information is apparently over my pay grade. Anyway, well, Tri-Horn didn't open my eyes, so to say, but he gave us a glimpse of what you'd done, why you'd done it, and gave us a lead on some corruption within our own forces before the battle. You'll be happy to know, Cat Burglar, that Tri-Horn's information led to the arrest of former Captain Nizumi of Marine Branch 16. He's been replaced by Captain Ripper, formerly of the 153rd. Nami gasped. That rat's gone? Really? Taken into Impelled Down and then spirited away, Smoker confirmed. I suspect you might have some knowledge about the phenomenon, Straw Hat? I'm not supposed to tell you, Luffy stated, his lips pursed and his eyes refusing to look at the Marine. As I suspected. Well, anyway, that was only the start. I now knew why Tri-Horn forsook the Marines, and I didn't like what I saw. I tried to make it right, to expose more corruption, but there was only so much I could do, and it didn't help that the new fleet admiral signed off on some of the more extreme methods the corrupt were willing to implement. With him in charge, it's only the two less obsessed admirals' morals or laziness that have been able to keep the man's rabid protege from calling buster calls on whatever island he tracks pirate origins to.
Vice Admiral Helmeppo even wanted to bombard Shell's town for their slights against him in the past. Smoker sighed heavily, a massive cloud of smoke passing his lips. Luckily, Admiral Fujitora shut him down. I've been left a Commodore so I can't interfere with his wants, and is a personal insult from the Mad Dog. Even the title of Rear Admiral would be too much for a wild card like me, apparently.
Why are you telling us this? Kaku wondered. And why do you want us to keep it on the QT around Toshigi? Don't you trust her? I do trust her, Smoker admitted. I trained her myself from the moment she was a seaman recruit, but I don't think she would agree with my doubts.
Marines saved her life in the past, it's why she joined in the first place. She is, mostly blind to the darkness I've started to recognize rests at every level. I fear what might happen to her if I force her to see how deep-rooted the corruption is. Belief like hers doesn't just crack, it shatters. And if it does, I fear she'll go full revolutionary. But, truthfully, I'm starting to think the Marines can no longer be saved.
That, Mary blinked, is not what I expected you to say, Smokey. You aren't worried about the rest of your men hearing this? These men know what will happen to them if they disobey my orders. Smokey knows what's up, one of the Marines commented. We'll follow him to the ends of the earth. Yeah, another agreed. Onigumo transferred me to G5 hoping I'd bite the big one, screw him.
My superior wanted my girlfriend, so he sent me here. Another said. If Smokey decides the Marines can't be saved, we'll leave with him.
Then why haven't you? Amy asked, sitting up slowly. Why haven't you left yet? Amy dearest, Sanji noodled, as much as noodled could be used as such a verb in this context. How are you? How do you feel? Do you need anything? Lemonade? Lemon meringue? Lemon sorbet? Sanji, you don't have access to the kitchen, Mary reminded him. We do have this tasty-looking snipe, though, Luffy grinned, gesturing to the dead bird. No fire to cook it with, the Clabouterman rebuffed. Unless you want to use Sanji's leg. My Diabol Hambi is no replacement for a proper stovetop, the chef denied. So, how much of that did you hear, Amy? Mary asked. Enough to get the picture, the blonde replied. So Smoker, why haven't you left the Marines yet? It's not as simple as quitting, the man answered. For any devil fruit user, but logias especially, you can't walk out the door without repercussions. If you leave on terrible terms, you might find a bounty on your head, though most likely with only alive on your poster. The higher your rank, the more secrets you might know. If you try to retire at the rank of captain or above, you either have to go to a pre-approved retirement island, take up watch over a town with some sort of VIP, or work in a base filing records or some such administration. Why do you think Vice Admiral Garp and former Fleet Admiral Sengoku still have offices at Marineford despite being retired?
So you can't leave without practically erasing your existence or still working for the Marines, Nami simplified. If you tried, they'd put a bounty on you. That's it, Smoker nodded. It gets worse if you eat a devil fruit while enlisted. I had my fruit before then, so I dodged that bullet, but for those who gain powers while serving, that fruit is considered property of the Marines. That makes you property since you can't just get rid of your powers.
That's, Kaku blinked. Oh, that's why my poster lists stealing as one of my crimes. I thought it was just the Black Ops secrets I know. I'm not even going to get into the deal with the Cypher Poles.
Look, the Marines need a complete overhaul of their ranks, but there are few powerful Marines free of corruption or apathy, and most of them are still kept in line by those above them. Hina, Suru, Dalmatian, very good, Jonathan, more. Hell, Rear Admiral Wallace is an oddball, but he's got a better sense of justice than Sakazuki. Sadly, enough Marines consider piracy the greater evil and look the other way unless someone is actively working with them like Nezumi was. It's just sad.
But you can do more good within the system, Mary commented, her statement more of a fact than a question. You think you can do more now than if you had the Marines on your tail and think pirates or revolutionaries would treat you with suspicion even if you defect. Not to mention the copycat. Defecting would break Toshigi for or against me totally, yeah, the Commodore agreed. That's why Sengoku has us in the know moving slowly. There's a group of us working in the Marines, trying to uproot the problems wherever we can find them, but we can't do everything. There are certain individuals in the world we legally cannot touch because of their status or rank, so we need to find others that can. What sort of people can't you touch? Luffy questioned. Well, the so-called King of Dressrosa, the warlord Don Quixote Doflamingo for one. As the king of an allied nation, he's untouchable, for us. You want us to deal with him for you, Nami deduced. We can do that because we don't have to listen to the Marines' rules. And, Smoker prompted, unrepentant in having his motivations revealed.
Nami sighed. We were probably going to do that anyway. Law said Monet was a spy for Doflamingo, so Dressrosa is probably where she took Velo. I don't particularly care about saving her, but I need my pound and a half of flesh for what she pulled kidnapping Ace.
Hey, Smokey? Luffy asked. Does this make us friends? Smoker seemed to be in physical pain, trying to force his words out. Beyond my better judgment, we can be amicable business associates. We're friends now, Luffy laughed. As soon as we kick this science guy's ass, we're having a party. Party? Ace cheered, throwing his arms up, yay. I guess we just have to wait for the others, Usopp nodded. Speaking of, Amy blinked. Where are they? What happened? Amy, we have a lot to explain to you, Nami chuckled. For one thing, Ace has a dragon egg now. You mean Pirate Hunter's sense of direction is that poor? Toshigi questioned, doing her best to keep a straight face. The information truly was funny, the image of the man getting irrevocably lost now one of her favorite ideas, but the blood-stained hallways and her present company countered such mirth. The demon child, however, had no such qualms with letting out a giggle, her laughter on one side and Trihorn's sigh on the other. It really is that bad, the magpie agreed, unaware that every time she, in the pirate hunter's body, turned to speak, Toshigi had to fight a physical urge to draw Shiger. Chopper, Ace, and I watched him disappear on Fishman Island and he just reappeared later in the Ryugu Palace. I don't know if you've ever been to Fishman Island, but there is a current tube at the top of Fishman Island's bubble connecting it to the palace, and Zoro just, surprise, there with a bubble of his own in the water-filled palace. Hody Jones knew Fishman pirates holding King Neptune and his daughter captive. And Zoro just, shows up. If he couldn't swim, I'd swear he had a devil fruit that causes him to get lost all the time.
The Marine didn't have a response to that, but she did know Fishman Island was in the final stages of becoming a formal member nation of the world government now despite its amicable relationship with the new Whitebeard pirates, backed by retired Vice Admiral Garp himself. She didn't know how the Straw Hats could possibly play into that situation, but she was certain they did, somehow.
Personally, I find Zoro's lack of direction a humorous anomaly from my experience with it on Thriller Bark, Robin commented. Indubitably confusing, but quite cute, Coby grinned. I was going to say intriguing and an interesting study, the archaeologist replied with a side-eye at the teen. I'm sure you'd like to study Zoro-sensei in greater detail, Robin. Coby, Robin said, her voice like ice. Do you, perchance, recall Frankie's recruitment? Because we can have a reenactment of it if you wish to keep this coquettish line of questioning active. Don't you dare, Z Grace denied, spinning around in Zoro's body to glare at the woman. Those belong to me. Excuse me, Interrobang, Coby demanded as Jin choked on his own saliva, trying and failing to muffle his laughter. Toshigi and G Billy shared a confused glance. Don't say that with Zoro-sensei's mouth, in fact, don't say that at all. What happened during Metal is Per? G Billy began. Actually, no, I don't want to know. As much as we Marines like intel, I don't think I want to know either, Toshigi agreed. Let's just say there was screaming, crying, stolen speedos, and a lot of forceful but heartfelt blackmail, Coby sighed. I want to know even less, G Billy grumbled, trying to get the mental image out of his head. Hey, Tashigi, the Rosset asked, turning the woman's attention to him. Do you mind if I ask you a question? Only if, in return, you answer one of mine, the Marine responded.
Deal, Coby agreed. I could ask him and I will later, but do you know what Billy did to earn himself a bounty while we were separated? If I remember right, his moniker is the Thunderbird. I'm very proud of it, Billy nodded. Is that all? Tashigi blinked. Based on the story I heard, he broke into a Marine base and stole a devil fruit. G517 if I recall. The rear admiral there was in recovery for weeks.
It was pretty funny, the duck in the body of a young woman laughed. He has mean golden alphas float fruit now, but he didn't know how to use it against me. I lured him outside where I could fly and he took the bait since he could fly, too. Kept trying to trap me with these metal marbles, but they were all conductive and I shocked him until he couldn't move anymore. I still don't know why, however, Tashigi admitted. It appears your crew does not possess the cloth fruit currently. I refuse to tell you where it is now, Billy grinned. Suffice it to say, it has returned to its proper home but you cannot prove it got there directly through me, because it didn't. And you can't get a confession out of a bird, after all, female Marine second. No, I can't, Tashigi muttered. But, as long as it's not in the hands of pirates, I suppose I can accept that. It's not. Good. Now then, try horn. My question to you is this. Your swords are named blades, aren't they? Yes. Coby grinned, staying silent as Tashigi's face started to discolor at the realization that he had, technically, truthfully answered her question. The pirate relished it for another second. I'm messing with you. Yes, these are Hashokusha and Imono, predator and prey, a matched set. Zoro-sensei took them from a pirate swordsman on Fishman Island and gave them to me after one of my Sabaku no Kiba broke in a different fight. I don't know what grade they are, but they're certainly better than the swords I named myself. That means your crew has 7 named blades, the woman muttered. 7, Coby blinked. You have 2, your teacher has 3, and, Spring Wind, Kaku had 2 of his own. Wind has. Coby cut himself off, diving forward to tackle Z Grace off her feet. She gasped, turning to yell at him only for her eyes to widen as the air where her head had been was pierced by a giant scorpion's tail. It kept going on a course for Tashigi only for Jin to jump in the way, his logia constitution taking the blow and giving the creature in question a nasty shock for its trouble. The pirates and Marine jumped back, their eyes going to the monster that had attacked them, its hard shell darkening as its camouflage faded. This thing hasn't gotten any cuter since the first time I saw it. Tashigi frowned, the group studying the lizard clinging to the wall. Its tail, lightly singed but clearly still in working order, waving over its spiked carapace, its bloodied fangs bared at those it viewed as prey. That, Billy said, is a big fucking lizard. Thank you, Billy, Jin muttered, we noticed. I'm sorry, I don't think I heard you right, Smoker said, though the tone of his voice was much more accusatory than confused. Smoke billowed from the ends of his cigars as he stared down the diminutive pirate doctor. Did you say your plan to help the children is to give them more of the drug that drove them mad in Terabang? When you say it like that, it sounds like a bad thing, Chopper admitted, a slew of something like muffin tins filled with a purple liquid arrayed behind him on his portable table.
Look, without Grace and her chem powers, we don't have much other option. Imidogen hydrocarbon is already difficult to produce, any replacement or counterdepressant is purely theoretical at this stage. Or, at least, anyone who's discovered a counter hasn't published. It would take a mind like Dr. Vegapunk or powers like Grace's to get us anywhere in such a short time, neither of which we have.
We can wait until they return having undone the body swap. We'd have the magpie's powers then.
But we can't, the reindeer rebuffed, pointing a hoof at the children. Those kids are suffering from NHC-10 withdrawal now, not to mention the smoke inhalation you caused. That withdrawal has been known to drive grown adults to madness and worse because of the hunger pangs. Sating those with said drug isn't the best option, no, but it's the only one we have available. Even with Grace's powers, we wouldn't know which theories to start with and what any side effects would be.
There has to be something else, Monster Doctor. I wouldn't have prepared this if there was anything else. You can ask your men, Billy, Grace, and I tried everything we could with what we had on the shore. Nothing worked.
Smoker turned, glaring his silent question at the Marines. They responded equally quietly, giving him a slew of affirmative motions, such as nods and thumbs ups.
Choppy's not a liar, Ace insisted, standing and still cradling the egg. Uncle USO lies a lot, but Choppy doesn't, except that one time. One time? Smoker questioned. One time? Chopper echoed. When have I lied to you, Ace? That time with the cotton candy, Ace answered. You said we ate it all, but then I saw you eating more after I left. That. Your mother told me to, Chopper denied. Nami said you'd eaten enough candy. Mommy in Terabang, the boy gasped, rounding on the navigator with betrayal in his eyes. It was for your own good, Ace, the woman defended, still sitting with Luffy's arm around her shoulders. Any more candy and you would have ruined your dinner. Nothing can ruin Uncle Pervy Cook's food, especially not candy. And Daddy gets to eat all he wants whenever, how come? Because your father's made of rubber and needs all that energy to fight the bad guys, Nami deflected. You'll get to eat more when you're bigger and stronger and older, isn't that right, Luffy? The pirate captain blinked, coming out of his daydream about what the snipe would taste like once Sanji cooked it. Nami raised an eyebrow, giving him a look. Oh, yeah, that's right, yep, whatever Nami said. By Jove, he's cracked the code, Amy muttered with a roll of her eyes. Smoker blew out a hard breath, one gloved hand pinching the bridge of his nose. This conversation had quickly derailed to another topic altogether. Quietly, he was thankful Straw Hat never joined the Marines like his grandfather had wanted him to. Sure, the world could have done without all the destruction his little band of pirates caused, but Smoker would not have been able to deal with this brand of chaos from a fellow Marine. He could barely stand it now, and he'd only been on the island with the Straw Hats for a few hours at most. Plus, if even half of the things Tri-Horn mentioned on the execution platform 2 years ago were true, there were several threats only the Straw Hats had been in the right place to stop. Can we get back to the topic, please? He demanded, shutting down the pirates' argument about why some birds didn't know how to fly. How had they even gotten onto that topic? Why is your plan to keep drugging the children? Better the devil you know, Chopper offered. These kids have lived with the lab's residents drugging them every day for the last few weeks at least. By all odds, another dose isn't going to render any unknown side effects at this point. I imagine both they and us would agree one more dose before we can get them proper help is a better alternative than continued withdrawal and increased aggression. A weak voice said, dragging attention to the giant girl who was docile enough to avoid Usopp's sargasso. I don't want it. The mean doctors were giving it to us for bad reasons.
There, Smoker said. It's a bad idea. Mocha, Ace called, getting up and hurrying over to the girl in question. Bucktooth raised his head, following Ace with his eyes. You okay, Mocha? And no, she whispered. It hurts. Everything hurts. My head, my tummy, my chest.
But Choppy has stuff for you, the toddler said. He'll heal you right up. But it's the bad stuff, the gigantified child sniffed, her hands still pressed against her stomach. Her lower lip trembled. It's because of that me and Sint and the others are big. No, Mocha. It's okay, Nami insisted. She stood, walking over to Ace to pull him up into her arms. It will make you feel better. It's what made us hurt, though, we just want to go back to normal. We can't make you normal right now, the navigator whispered, setting a hand on Mocha's arm. Not while we're in this place. The best we can do is take the pain away for now. But we will find a way to undo what Caesar and his lackeys did to you. You promise? I promise. Mollified by the woman's words, Mocha lowered herself until she was lying on her side. Ace squirmed out of his mother's arms and stepped forward, putting his hands on Mocha's cheek, the highest point he could reach for the poor girl. One of her hands came up, a single finger bigger than Ace's whole body. Ace gave it a one-armed hug to try to lift her spirits without crushing the egg. Choppy's gonna help, he promised. Choppy's the bestest doctor in the world. You can't make promises like that, Smoker stated, drawing a gasp from Mocha. Nami rounded on him, her glare smoldering. Excuse me? She demanded. We have done more for these children than you have? You cannot promise that your little crew can reverse the effects of the NHC-10, the Marine shot back. You have no way of doing it.
Chopper and Grace could figure it out with enough time.
And how long might that be? Smoker questioned. A few days, a week, maybe a month. Are you going to keep giving them hits of that stuff to keep their cravings down the whole time? Maybe put them in cages and straitjackets to keep them from hurting each other?
Then what's your big idea, Mr. Big Bad Marine? Nami hissed, hands on her hips. If you hand them over to the government, they're just as likely to put them down or brainwash them into child soldiers to cover up their own failures.
She's got a point. Kaku spoke up, interrupting the man. Kidnapped child soldier talking here. If you must know, I wouldn't take them to the government, Smoker said, earning surprised blinks from the pirates. I have contacts, ones that stretch out beyond the mad dog heading our organization right now. I can patch a line through to Dr. Vegapunk and get at least a start on their rehabilitation. You can get in contact with Vegapunk in Terabang, Frankie gasped. That's super, I'd love to meet him. And how do we know Vegapunk would help these kids? Mary questioned. It seems like Caesar was one of his former colleagues. Can't say that's a good track record of acquaintances so far. Other former colleagues of Dr. Vegapunk include the other scientists of MADS, those including Queen of Kaido's Beast Pirates, Judge Vinsmoke of Germa 66, an unknown female member, and association with the underworld broker Dufeld, Kaku offered. Not exactly a shining history there. Vegapunk was brought into the governments after leading MADS, not for his ability to judge someone's character, Smoker defended.
Scientists for peace, he said they were. He might have a questionable list of former friends, but he truly believes in science for peace, even if flowers that grow from gunpowder is a bit out there if you ask me. Still, he's the greatest mind in the world. If anyone can give us what we need in time to help these kids avoid more pain, it's him. That's why I said you can't make those promises, cat burglar. We can.
You can? Yes, we can, Smoker repeated. I don't mean the Marines or the government, and I don't mean G5. There are several unofficial, internal groups within the Marines, 2 of which I am part of. In this case, I would be working as a member of Dagger.
Dagger. What is that supposed to be? Division Against Gruesome Governance, Enforcement, and Rule, the Logia explained.
We of Dagger were gathered by Sengoku himself after Sakazuki's ascension to the position of Fleet Admiral. In case you weren't aware, his choice of successor was Kuzan, former Admiral Aokiji. When the Mad Dog gained the backing of the world government's higher-ups and drove Kuzan out, Sengoku felt there was a high chance the Marines had of falling even lower unless there was a concerted effort from within to prevent such.
This was exacerbated by the revelations of corruptions in the East Blue, primarily revealed by you all between Morgan and Nezumi. If captains as small time as them can be abusing people without the knowledge of their superiors, then obviously oversight has not been doing their jobs.
That is where we come in. We have enough contacts between us within Dagger to get help outside with enough discretion to avoid unwanted eyes. In conjunction with that, we can use any number of tactics to reveal this rot and find ways to deal with it, assuming we can find enough evidence for Sengoku. And you think these friends of yours can get you in contact with Vegapunk? I know they can, Smoker confirmed. He grinned. After all, a few of my friends in Dagger have his number. The pirates blinked. I don't know how to respond to that, Amy said, voicing the collective thoughts of those around. Wait, didn't you say you were thinking about going rogue because the Marines might not be salvageable? I don't have to explain everything I know to you, Smoker replied. Regardless, I will fight to make the Marines a respectable organization, one so proud and right that future hopefuls like Trihorn don't have to turn to piracy to chase the justice they feel is right. Only when that dream is shattered and there is a bounty on my head will I fully write off the Marines, no matter the daydreams I have of leaving. You know what, Smokey? Luffy grinned. I really like you. When you've got a bounty, you can join my crew. No way. Toon denied from the group of lesser Marines, the woman stepping out from the fold. If Smokey gets labeled a pirate, we're all leaving the Marines and joining his crew. We'll be the Smoky Pirates. That's the best name you could come up with, Mary asked, but the smirk on her face gave her away. Well, I guess it's not the worst name. I think it's better than the Straw Hat Pirates, one of the Marine shipwrights heckled. Hey, Nami yelled, her arms crossing as she turned her glare on the group. That straw hat is Luffy's treasure, just like Smoker is yours, back off. Ah, thanks, Nami, Luffy cooed, extending his rubbery arm to pull her close to him to hug her and kiss her cheek. I mean, I don't really care if they think the name is stupid or not. All I care about is you and the others sailing by my side. Nami grinned, nuzzling her cheek into his. I wouldn't sail with anyone else, Luffy. Choppy. Ace whined. Mommy and Daddy are flirting again. Yup, the little doctor agreed, sniffing the air. Smells like pheromones and Sanji's jealousy. I am not, Sanji began. Okay, I'm very jealous, but I'm happy as long as Nami Swan is happy. So, Amy smirked. Are you going to give Ace a little brother or sister now? Amy. A number of pirates chastised, the blonde in question absolutely unrepentant. Kinemon and Momonosuke watched the whole thing like spectators of tennis, silent and trying to keep up with all this new information, their limited knowledge of the wider world, and where said information fit into everything. Brook and Usopp said nothing, simply enjoying the show. What? How? The boy asked. Oh, can I get both? I want both. We'll see, Nami supplied, noncommittally. She certainly didn't want to have any further discussion about such topics with her not quite 2-year-old child, no matter how much further in development he was compared to other kids his age. And, while the idea of having more kids with Luffy was not objectionable in any way, Ace himself had not been planned. Trying to raise another child without the calm of somewhere like Weatheria, a child sure to be as rambunctious as Ace was in all likelihood, would be all but impossible with the chaos of the new world and their adventures. Okay. Ace agreed easily. Nay, Choppy, are the druggy candies done yet? The reindeer blinked. Oh, he turned, checking the muffin tin like molds he'd been using. He reached forward, using a scalpel to pull one of the purple shapes from its slot. It was about the size of a rumble ball but more of an egg shape with one flat side. We're in luck. Because of the cold, the NHC-10 has solidified without issue. And if my calculations from what Billy and Grace were able to gather were correct, these should be less than the average dosages for the kids but enough to ease their withdrawal to manageable levels. And, he sniffed it, they'll probably taste like grape. Grape? Usopp questioned. Really? What? Flavoring doesn't affect the molecular structure. It tastes like sawdust otherwise. I will not ask how you know that, Smoker grunted, his eyes half-lidded. You realize if you give that drug to those children, it will technically count against you as coercion and intoxication of minors, right? You know these are extenuating circumstances, Chopper replied, making his way to Mocha. Carefully, he balanced the candy on the end of her finger, the girl studying it. It looked so small. "Will this really help, Dr. Chopper?" she whispered. "I will ease the pain, Mocha. Don't you trust me?" Rather than answer vocally, the black-haired child tipped her head back and swallowed the item. It was so small compared to her large body that she didn't even taste it, the experience even less than taking a pill. She coughed after a moment, a tiny puff of purple smoke coming from between her lips. She blinked, pushing herself to her feet. The pain's all gone. "There," Luffy grinned. "Chopper's helped the kids. Now we just have to wait for Zoro and the others come back and we can go kick Caesar in his stupid." He paused, correctly interpreting the look his wife was giving him. Face. His stupid face. Coby cut himself off, diving forward to tackle Z Grace off her feet. She gasped, turning to yell at him only for her eyes to widen as the air where her head had been was pierced by a giant scorpion tail. It kept going on a course for Tashigi only for Jin to jump in the way, his logia constitution taking the blow and giving the creature in question a nasty shock for its trouble. The pirates and marine jumped back, their eyes going to the monster that had attacked them. "This thing hasn't gotten any cuter since the first time I saw it." Tashigi frowned, the group studying the lizard clinging to the wall. Its tail, lightly singed but clearly still in working order, waved over its spiked carapace, its bloodied fangs bared at those it viewed as prey. "That," Billy said, "is a big fucking lizard." "Thank you, Billy," Jin muttered, "we noticed." "Smoker and I saw that thing earlier," Tashigi hissed, pulling Shiger from its sheath slowly to not provoke a sudden attack. "Right before we ran into the ghost ship and the devil child." "Ah, so it was within the NT?" Robin questioned, slowly positioning her arms to call upon her devil fruit powers. "Yeah, it was," the marine confirmed. "It was carrying a dead body in its mouth and hissed at us." "We've got this thing outnumbered," Jin noted, pulling out his tonfa. "Question is, what's its gimmick? What tricks does this thing have hidden?" "What makes you think it's got a gimmick?" Z Grace questioned, falling into one of the basic hand-to-hand combat stances Coby had taught her long ago. The look of Zoro's body choosing to fight without using the two swords still sheathed at his hip was certainly strange. In all odds, however, she and Billy would be useless in this fight without their real bodies. "Call it a mental hunch," Jin answered, his crewmates translating that to mean it was something Rum was saying. "Something about this thing is unstable. It's unnerving."
Shaw. The creature hissed, lunging off the wall. Z Grace and Billy dove away as its fangs bit down on the air, its legs absorbing the force of the impact with no sound or visible ruffling. A creature of such weight should have shaken the hallway or cracked the tile floor, but there was none of that.
"Pterodactyl swarm," Coby yelled, launching several flying cuts at the monster. In response to the coming attack, the lizard pulled its head, limbs, and tail into the spiked carapace that enclosed its torso, the attacks breaking against the uneven spines and thick plating. The scorpion tail lashed outward toward the pink-haired zone. Coby sidestepped, his crossed swords parrying the venomous appendage. Tashigi swung Shiger in an upward slash, expecting to sever the offending limb, but her eyes widened as her blade met the tail with a harsh clang, stopping dead. "The hell?" she demanded, having to jump back with Coby as the tail retracted and the rest of the lizard appeared again, hissing. "That's no normal armor." "One would expect not," Robin agreed. "Normal or not, it probably ain't shockproof," Jin commented, flashing forward with lightning sparking from his tonfa over the creature. "Take this, Olympus Judgment." His weapons landed, a thunderous boom echoing from the strike along with the electric discharge. The creature screeched through the noise, its body quivering. It bucked, getting up on its back legs to slam Jin between its body and the wall, exposing the shell-like pattern on its underside. "Kamaitachi," Tashigi called, Shiger swinging through the air. A dozen small lines cut into the lizard's plating, its neck bending unnaturally so it could look at her. It hissed, bringing its front down quickly in an attempt to crush the marine underfoot. Tashigi would have none of that, jumping away before the creature could injure her. It hissed again before kicking off the wall, Jin barely avoiding the back feet, as it lunged for Tashigi. Its neck stretched, jaws snapping at the first one to properly injure its hide. "It stretches in Terabang," Coby yelled, charging in. His form changed, the pirate growing into his armor mode to interpose himself between the creature and the marine. The razor teeth missed him by an inch, the young man wrapping his arms around the jaw to keep it from going after him and firmly closed. As one would expect, the lizard fought for freedom, its neck twisting this way and that in an attempt to make Coby let go, but the Rosset refused, his shoes scraping against the tile. "Get it now." "Coby, let go," Robin warned. The swordsman did, jumping away as the scorpion tail lashed the air near his head. He spat a curse, bringing up Imono to bat the stinger away as the head retreated to its normal position. "Shaaa," the creature hissed. It charged forward, Coby now close enough to see that its legs, much like the neck, stretched with each step to maximize its movement. Coby cursed, diving out of the way as it barreled past. He managed to snag the base of the tail, letting the creature's momentum drag it forward too quickly for it to react as the zone's grip found the point where the stinger met the rest of the tail. "Let's see how you like this," the young man yelled, wrenching back. The lizard screeched as Koby's muscles bulged under his armor plating, pure strength alone lifting the beast from the floor and swinging it over his head, intending to stab its back spines into the flooring to leave it defenseless.
The creature was smarter than to allow that, twisting itself around to absorb the impact with its legs. The scorpion tail gave a horrid snap at the sudden move, falling limp. The lizard hissed in pain, ripping the tail free from Koby's hold.
Before their very eyes, the tail straightened, popped back into place, and curled back up to its resting position. "Son of a Jabra," Coby growled. "I'm starting to not like this thing." "Tell us something we don't know," Tashigi muttered. "So, it can stretch its neck and legs, has thick armor and razor-sharp teeth, can heal, and has that tail. Can this thing get any worse?" "Don't say that," the creature hissed, its eyes narrowing. "I don't like the sound of that," Billy muttered as the head of the beast disappeared into the shell. "You can understand it?" the woman demanded. "Of course I can," the bird trapped in the artist's body replied. "That's the same dialect I grew up with." "Then what the hell did it say, Billy in Terabang?" Coby questioned, tired of beating around the bush. "It said something about needing more weapons," Billy answered. The creature's head re-emerged, the dead body of one of the lab's satyr caretakers in its mouth free of his hazmat suit. Before the others could react, it threw the body into the air and snapped it up, swallowing it whole. "I don't see how that's supposed to count as more weapons," Grace commented. "Something's going on inside it," Jin warned. The lizard shook, its head twitching side to side while keeping its golden eyes on the pirates and marine around it. As they watched, off-white horns started to grow out of the ridges of the head, right above the eyes. They curled like those of a ram, or like Mary's, for several revolutions, points sticking outward as they reached the circle's centers. It swung its new horns, scraping one against the floor nearby to test them. The one that hid dug into the tile, leaving a line of shattered ceramic in its wake. "You just had to fucking say something," Tashigi, Coby growled, blaming her for this turn of events. "You never ask if things can get worse, Jin? Robin? Either of you got an idea of what this thing's deal is?" "Limited information points to genetic assimilation," Robin suggested. "It seems able to take genetic material from its prey and recreate certain key aspects of their biology. In this case, it assimilated the horns of the individual it just consumed." "You don't think it could do that to a devil fruit, do you?" Grace asked. "That would be an interesting question to have answered, Grace." "Yeah, well, I don't want to test it," Coby said. "You think it has other bodies in that shell just waiting to be food?" "I wouldn't be surprised," Tashigi muttered, fighting down the instinct to vomit at the thought. "You speak this thing's dialect, Thunderbird?" Jin rushed the creature from the side, sliding under the stabbing tail and sending sparking electricity over its underside, burning a black line across it. The lizard roared in pain, turning its attention on the logia who bought time for his companions to trade information and scheme. "Yeah, I do. Why? Does that mean you know the origins of this creature?" "Depending on your definition, female marine second," Billy replied. "Technically, evil scientist woman created all the creatures we've seen here on the island. But the dialect from this one suggests generational evolution from a plant called IQ."
"There's IQ here?" Grace questioned, intimately familiar with the plant after helping Coby care for some of them and assist in the creation of the IQ gummies he'd needed before their separation. She and Chopper had also been in the IQ greenhouse on Marival when Usopp had finished her Chem Fruit's previous user A in a bag of fertilizer. The knowledge that Velo had been using the properties of the plant was not a surprise after seeing some of the creatures she'd engineered.
"We suspected as much," Coby agreed, Robin nodding along. "Some of the little beasties that tried to slow us down looked like some of the animals from Shiki's islands." "I did inform Usopp to be more wary of Velo's creations," Robin said. "I noted that scientific experimentation begets more dangerous results at a timelier rate than natural selection. The idea that IQ evolution affects the dialogue of the user, however, lends interesting evidence to the belief that IQ affects brain function as well as biology." "We already knew it made most creatures more violent," Billy reminded her. "Something evil scientist woman seems to have ramped up to 11. I do hope the lizard has not acquired prey of the classification schemata." "Goddamn, Robin," Coby hissed, remembering her comments about squamates from their time exploring the burning lands. "Don't sound hopeful about that. We don't need a dangerous, self-evolving lizard that can clone itself." Robin only giggled, as much as her quiet chuckling could be called such. Her mirth, however, was cut off as Jin grunted, materializing beside the group in a bolt of lightning and a crack of thunder. The lizard glared at them, its lips and teeth blackened with burned char from where it had gotten the logia in its mouth before he decided he'd bought enough time and lightning traveled away. "Have we got a plan yet?" he asked. "Right now, I think we just need to overpower it," Coby replied. "We just need to keep it from, on cue." The lizard's head ducked into its carapace. "Shit, light it up, pterodactyl swarm." "Huh?" Tashigi yelled, flinging her own, larger flying cut following Koby's many smaller ones.
3000-volt lightning shot. Jin shouted, launching a ball of lightning from between his tonfa.
Grace instinctually tried to summon her chemical attacks, but was forced to swallow a curse of her own when she remembered that her powers were currently outside of her reach. Robin and Billy as well were left unable to do anything lest they opened themselves to greater danger they could not counter within the lizard's reach.
These distance attacks had been aiming for the hole the lizard's head had retreated into, and they were on track to get there. Said lizard, understandably not wanting to experience what was coming its way, turned, letting the flying cuts and ball of lightning impact its side. They still left marks, a dozen slashes and a charred spot of black, but the chitin of its armor took the brunt of the force.
The head popped back out, another body in its teeth. This one, however, was not a sentient resident of the lab but another of Velo's creations.
It was a bird, or more accurately a conglomeration of birds. The deceased avian had two heads, one that of a flamingo with a wide, flat beak and the other with the head of a pelican attached to a slender neck. The body itself was a very light pink, its feathers stained with the deep crimson of its own life fluid. The wings and feet hung limp.
Similar to the last time, the lizard threw the body up and swallowed it whole. "Ah shit," Coby swore. "Billy, looks like this thing has a taste for bird." "Yeah, and people," the human-possessing bird shot back.
"It's evolving again," Tashigi warned. The lizard shook, its body seeming to widen. Its head shifted to its right and, out of the darkness of its shell, slowly emerged a second head similar to the first. This head, however, had a wide, flat beak lined with jagged teeth in a way beaks absolutely should not be. That was on top of the horrifying image of a lizard with a beak.
"We need to find a way to flip it," Coby ordered.
Cientos fleur, giganto mano. Robin tried, a hand of many hands rising out of the ground below the creature. It shot upward, but the lizard's legs stretched to accommodate the upward force, the head with the beak looking underneath. The beak opened, Robin quickly dismissing her bloomed arms before harm could come to them and be transferred to her. "My apologies, Coby. It is too flexible for me alone."
"We're lucky none of us have taken a direct hit," the Rosset replied. "That thing can hit hard and take damage. We aren't going to get anywhere like this. We need to outmaneuver it," Tashigi called. "Devil child, pin its tail down, lightning demon. Take the left side, try horn. The right, get up close and push it up, I'll take the middle." "I hate talking orders from a marine," the logia grumbled, lightning traveling to the left. Coby shrunk into his human mode and shaved right. He grew into his drill mode upon landing, falling into a runner's stance. He was still missing one of his horns, not having had enough time to grow it back, but Coby was certain he was still dangerous. "Ready, ready," Jin called from the other side. "Devil child, now, quarenta fleur." "Hold," Robin yelled, arms blooming from the floor and wall behind for creature. They reached out, grabbing hold of and wrapping around its tail to pull it flush with the building's interior structure, allowing it no room to move. "SHAAAA," the lizard cried. "Astropes arc, drill mode 5-point style. Mesozoic meteor." The lizard split its focus, one head going to either side as Jin and Coby initiated their attacks. Jin's horizontal swing stopped as the creature caught the weight of his tonfa with its mouth, suffering more than a couple broken teeth, but the electricity that shot through the lizard's insides proved that its interior was not as tough as its exterior.
Coby's spinning drive aimed for the beaked head's neck, said head turning to aim said beak to intercept. The beak's teeth sawed against Coby's horns, bringing his charge to a stop. Hoshokusha and Imono continued on their path, one stabbing into one of the creature's eyes while the other barely missed its neck. Working together, Coby and Jin each got one hand under their assigned head to where the shell was. Planting their feet and trusting the tail to Robin, they grit their teeth and lifted. The creature tried to give a dual screech but, filled as its mouths were, the cry was muffled. Tashigi charged in as it raised its front legs, Shigur primed. "Die, foul beast!" She drove her weapon into the lizard's chest before dragging it down, opening a line in its less defended underbelly. It thrashed, the pirates and marine retreating to watch its last, weakening death throes. Slowly, glaring at them down an eye and with its blood pooling below, the lizard gave one final hiss and died. The hallway fell silent. "I do not want to go through that again," Coby declared, sheathing his swords. "I mean, damn. If I had a berry for every time I was attacked by a two-headed lizard." "You've been attacked by a two-headed lizard before?" Grace blinked, fighting the urge to go fret over her beloved swordsman. It would just be weird for her to do so in Zoro's body. "I mean, once," Coby answered. "Back on Sabaody. Now that I think about that, 2 bears isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right?" "Can't be weirder than the gorillas that are apparently in love with my sister," Grace shrugged, earning confused looks from her crewmates and Tashigi. She refuses to elaborate. "There are gorillas in love with Amy?" Jin questioned, oddly defensive. "I don't want to know," Tashigi sighed, rubbing her forehead. "Wah wah 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 wah. A voice questioned, the group turning to see Zoro and Law standing at the other side of the hallway, the duck speaking through the handle of Wado Ikimonji. Law just looked tired, a burned fringe nearly smoldering on the lower part of his black coat.
Finally, Grace yelled. We've got a bone to pick with you, Law. Yes, well, the warlord responded. I would like to discuss a few things with you, too. Namely, how in the world have the pirate hunter and I trekked through the burning lands to get back here without ever leaving the lab? Wah. Tashigi blinked. I told you, Coby sighed. Zoro-sensei is that bad. Let's just get everyone in their normal bodies again. We've got a situation to deal with. Hello Curves, I have missed you.
Grace cheered, hugging herself now that she was back in her own body. Billy, beside her, was quacking up a storm as he ruffled his feathers and sparked electricity. Zoro, for his part, didn't look to have an opinion about being back in his own body except to yank Wado Ikimonji from Billy's beak and wipe any residue it might have had from the handle before sheathing it, muttering something about uncontrollable duck tongues and further cleaning.
What seems to be the situation? Law questioned, replacing his blade after his quick, but very much appreciated, application of his devil fruit. I trust there has been some change on that front since I was separated from the cat burglar and her guards? Yeah, something like that, Tashigi replied, her disdain clear to hear. Your boss has apparently released a chemical that can turn people into stone. Actually, only a stone-like state that's probably reversible if countered within 1 or 2 hours, Grace supplied. He's not my boss, Law rejected. I only approached him to start my quest to ruin Doflamingo's enterprise. Either way, that gas shouldn't be a problem anymore, Coby commented, easily wrapping his arms around Grace from behind now that she was no longer trapped in the body of his teacher. She leaned into him, Robin giving the pair a knowing side eye. With Grace's chem powers now accessible, Caesar won't know what hit him.
Wah wah. Billy agreed. Wah 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 wah. No explosions, Grace commented, guessing what it was the duck demanded. She seemed to guess correctly since the gigafowl relaxed at her response. Still, Caesar released a lot of that gas. According to the others, he'd used his power to absorb the gas into himself first and it made him huge despite being condensed together. I don't know if I have the ability to control that much chemical at once.
Then don't, Zoro shrugged, the group turning to him. Just keep it away from us and peel away at it little by little. Leave the clown to us. Amazing, Zoro, Robin blinked. You actually vocalized a clever strategy. Are you feeling well? I'm not stupid, woman, she's got a point, Jin commented. Most of your plans are hackin' slash until other guy stops moving. I'm not a moron, you glorified battery. Grace giggled as Jin balked. I mean, the chemist began. You do use blood weapons, Jin. With your powers, you're a battery that commits assault and battery. Bite me. Oh yeah, the monk growled as the others snickered at his expense.
Hey, guys, Coby questioned. Is Caesar Clown related to Buggy? Do we have to worry about pissing off another warlord?
Buggy? Zoro laughed. A warlord? Come on, shrimp. There's no way that's true. Buggy the Clown was made one of the 6 warlords several months after the Great Summit War, Tashigi commented. That said, there have been no reports whatsoever of him and Caesar Clown being related. The Clown is just a moniker for him, not a family name as it is for Caesar. Ah, good, Coby relaxed. I'd rather not have Buggy coming after us again, even if I'm sure we could handle him. Again? Grace asked, turning her head to look at the zone. I thought he fought with Luffy to free you during the war. I mean, we were reason he was in jail begin with, Jin offered. Smoker made arrest, but it's cuz Buggy and his crew attacked us in Logia Town that he got caught. And he only came after us there because we kicked him out of a small town in the East Blue, Coby added. That was where Captain Luffy, Zoro-sensei, and I first met Nami, actually. She'd stolen a map from the clown and Luffy literally fell from the sky to save her. He smirked. Only because he tried to eat a giant bird, though. Oh yeah, now I remember that, Zoro nodded. I'd forgotten why we ran into those weaklings. Well, idling in this hallway will not behoove us any longer, Robin interjected. Shall we reconvene with our allies forthwith? I'm certain Chopper has satisfied the children's craving by now. And, Tashigi muttered. Exactly what was the plan there? Grace and Billy glanced at each other, a motion that did not assuage any of the Marines' sudden worries.
Tashigi, Grace said, I don't think you want to know.
That just makes me more worried. What did your doctor do? Well, Grace fiddled with her fingers, sinking deeper into Coby's embrace as if to use him as a shield. Considering how much force he could take, she probably was. Her answer was muffled by the Rossett's arms. Excuse me, the Marine demanded. We, tried everything we had access to before, the chemist whispered. When none of that worked, we kind of had to default to, giving them what they wanted. What they, Tashigi trailed off, the gears of her mind translating the redhead's vague answer. You mean you gave them more of the drug they're addicted to in Terabang, she demanded, drawing Shigur. Coby responded in kind, pulling Imono from its sheath and aiming the sword at the woman before she could attack. Robin and Jen, said pirates on either side of the marine, also readied themselves for battle. I did say we tried everything else we could, Grace defended. Giving them a little NHC-10 is nothing but an emergency stopgap to calm them until we've dealt with Caesar Clown, okay? Why would that even be an option? Better the devil you know, Grace reasoned. We decided there was very little risk to giving them a little more. Certainly less risk than letting them run wild so they could hurt themselves or run into some monster. I hate the fact that makes sense, Tashigi muttered. She backed away slowly, angrily replacing her sword. Fine, but we're getting those kids proper help as soon as we get off this damn island. You shan't hear any argument from us, Robin told her. Speaking of the children, shall we return to the group and inform them of our successful mission? This, Caesar muttered to himself, a frown on his face as he watched the bubbles that disturbed the surface of the lake. This was not part of the plan. The former mad scientist turned his attention to the shore, the effects of his chemical weapon clear to see.
Statues littered the purple-tinted snow, tied-up satyrs locked in time with grotesque expressions of fear as well as the two giant, fallen forms of Scotch and rocks by the door, all now a uniform gray-coated in a thin layer of mauve snow. He didn't care about the losses, rather, their solidification was proof his science was sound, but they were useless for his plans to escape the island.
Now, what to do? The man asked himself. Currently, he had no way off this accursed island. And really, he hadn't considered how a shift in density would affect the buoyancy of a ship, especially not one mostly constructed of metal and coated in a thin film of sea prism stone. Unfortunately, his deadly gas was more effective than he thought it would be, the petrification of the wood of G5's battleship causing the ship's center of gravity to localize and shift downward. As a result, the battleship sunk to the point where water managed to reach through prior damage, flooding the vessel's lower decks. This, in turn, only caused the ship to sink more, eventually reaching the point where the lake's buoyancy could not support the ship and it descended into a watery grave. Nor had he considered the speculation on the Straw Hats having created another Klabauterman. Naturally artificial beings were not his scientific purview. That would have been Vegapunk or Judge's domain, though it seemed everything was Vegapunk's domain. The big-headed know-it-all. Either the pirate's ship had already sunk or somehow managed to sail away on its own. Considering the lack of petrified pirates, it either took some of them with it when it fled or they were all inside. Be that as it may, Caesar wasn't sure what to do now. He could simply wait here, maybe take a nap and muse on what he shall do later, but there were only so many viable plans one could formulate without an idea of where one will without a ship to carry him. The scientist was stranded, metaphorically in the same boat as the pirates and marines. Ah, that is what I shall do, Caesar nodded. I'll go see if those fools have already fallen prey to my Shinokuni. If they have not, I shall help the process along, maybe force any survivors to carry me off the island. And if they have, the lab will be mine to make a few calls and craft a vessel of my own. I'm sure making one cannot be that difficult, shalalololo. His plan decided, the gas logia user floated through the remaining haze of his chemical weapon, his yellow eyes set on the broken door into his lab. Now then, which way have they gone? Though personally against the technically illegal methods the pirates used, Smoker couldn't refute the results. After the limited doses of NHC-10 the monster doctor administered to the children, they had instantly calmed down, allowing the pirates and marines to free them from the vegetation Long Nose had used to ensure they didn't run off while subjected to their cravings. Now they were occupied with various hand-based games such as patty cake and rock paper scissors. Those that didn't want to play such games had split into other affinity groups, a musical sing-along led by the Soul King and the Ghost Ship, or a Carpentry 101 class by the Cyborg, Spring Wind, and the Ghost Ship, the Klabauterman jumping between the two activities whenever she felt like it. Others were eagerly listening to the cat burglar as she recounted stories of the Straw Hat's adventures throughout the years, her and Straw Hat's child at the forefront of that crowd with the egg tucked in his lap. Honestly, it was almost sad the pirates were better entertainers of children than his marines were. Almost, since Smoker didn't particularly care to gain such a reputation for something he didn't like to do anyway. The pirates could deal with every skinned knee, boo-boo, and hurt feeling until Tashigi and the group she'd accompanied returned, so he didn't have to. He, too, was listening to the stories with one ear, fishing for any information he could later use. In the new world, and that's why the keel is the most important part of any ship. And zap! The woman clapped, the children, and marines, in the crowd jumping. Next thing we knew, we were waking up in the forest with the others looking over us. We were on an altar as a sacrifice. That was our first look at the man who called himself God Eneru, but we certainly weren't down yet, even if it was getting dark. So, we did the only thing we could in such a situation. We lit a bonfire and partied with the Sky Wolves to lift our spirits. Smoker felt one eyebrow raise, the Commodore glancing at the blonde smoking beside him. Sanji noticed the glacé, turning slightly to more clearly see the marine. Am I to believe, then, that the stories the marines brushed off as lies are true? Smoker asked him. Depends, the chef replied. What stories are you talking about? According to the jailers of Impel Down, Trihorn reported you all obtained the Rumble fruit by killing God. That's what he called himself. Sanji nodded, breathing out a puff of smoke. It's just a title for the Skypans. They call the new ruler, who is also the old ruler that Eneru toppled, God now. Don't remember the old guy's name, though. Huh. The old guy's name is Ganfall, Usopp commented, the sniper keeping an eye on Mary as she jumped into Brook's next song. And Wiper and the other Shadians became his top lieutenants from what Jin told me, and Konis and Lackey run a cafe together now. Said the food's pretty good. I'll have to visit at some point, Sanji muttered, a perverted grin coming to his face. If I asked, do you think Konis Schwan and Lackey Swan would serve me in maid outfits? No. What if I offered to teach them new recipes? Still no, but I'm sure Konis wouldn't mind seeing us again. Wait, the cook blinked. How the hell did Jin get to see them? Oh, that's right, you were bleeding out through your nose when we had that talk, Usopp remembered. That was actually the same time Luffy learned he was a dad. Anyway, Jin spent the last 2 years on a sky island called Burka, the place where Eneru actually came from. I guess he stopped by Skypa on the way out. Or maybe it was a weekend trip. I don't know. You pirates get stranger every minute, Smoker grumbled. At least some of you try to be helpful. He cast his eyes to the side of the room where Chopper was deep in discussion with Momonosuke and Kinemon, telling the newest Zone what he could expect from his powers. Their talk seemed to include a lot of trial and error as the dragon human tried to figure out what powers dragons apparently had. So far they had not managed to unlock the boy's hybrid form, nor had he managed to fly nor breathe fire, but the last few attempts had resulted in the pink dragon coughing up smoke. Smoker frowned. At almost the same time, Usopp began to fidget. I have a bad feeling, the Marine commented, his eyes narrowing as he scanned the room. Bang! No sooner had the Commodore spoken than something slammed into the other side of the wall. The echoing impact brought all motion to a stop. Every set of eyes, and one set of eye holes, turned to the new dent in what had previously been a door before Sanji had melted the edges. So, Chopper began. That's not Jin and the others, is it? Bang! Another dent. Everyone, get back, Nami ordered, those closest to the impact site scrabbling away. Bang! Another dent, this one cracking the formerly melted metal. Purple gas leaked into the room, moving slowly as it began to spread like water. More hits ripped the crack wider, the pale, smiling face of the lab's owner appearing within. Hello, pirates, he grinned, his body twisting into gas before reforming inside the room. Caesar spread his arms as if in greeting, the Shinokuni gas building around him. The children screamed, trying their best to hide behind the adults around them. Caesar clown, Smoker growled. To what do we own the displeasure? Displeasure? The scientist asked. Commodore, I'm hurt to think you think so little of me. It's 'cause you're a meanie and a bad man, Ace yelled, pointing a finger at the gas man from behind one of his mother's legs. Luffy clenched his fists, armament hockey covering his hands and crawling up his arms. I'll have you know I have an ultimatum for you pirates and marines, Caesar frowned. His powers were holding back the deadly gas from reaching the pirates, but the amount of it in the room continued to rise. A single gesture from the man could flood the room before any of the combined forces would be able to react, much less save the others. You see, both ships you arrived on seem to be missing. First watched the marine battleship sink with my own eyes, which means you all are stuck here with me. Either, you can agree to work for me, build me a ship, and take me off the island to somewhere else where I can start my research again, or I can petrify the lot of you here and now and leave on my own. I'll give you a few minutes to think on it. We don't need to think about it, Luffy snarled, the weight of the air around them seeming to increase. Nami told me how you had one of your scientists kidnap Ace, and no one gets away with that seeing as the last guy who tried is dead. Gas or no gas, logia or not, I'm gonna kick your ass. Oh, so scary, Caesar mocked. He reached forward, spinning his hand in a circle. Luffy's eyes widened as the air around his head thinned. His hands went to his throat. Daddy, the toddler gasped. What? Luffy coughed.
You might be one of these powerful pirates, Straw Hat, but you're still just a creature that needs to breathe like the rest of them, Caesar sneered. Without air, you'll asphyxiate and die like the rest of those who ever thought to stand up to me.
Gah! Bucktooth yelled, charging forward. Caesar staggered at the beast's sudden appearance, the creature showing a heretofore unseen speed. Just KTOOF, Ace yelled. Wait. The creature's teeth ripped through Caesar's arm, the limb dispersing into gases of unknown composition. Caesar scowled, turning on the creature as it, too, turned to him. In doing so, Caesar lost his focus on the supernova in their midst. Moronic creature, the man hissed. Die like the rest of Velo's abominations.
The Shinokuni rolled forward, enveloping the only one of Velo's creations that seemed to have been affable. Bucktooth yipped in fear as he was surrounded.
Bucktooth. No, Nami grabbed Ace by the waist, refusing to let the boy charge in despite his struggles. Bucktooth, come back. The purple gas cleared, the hybrid now only a statue, Ace wailed.
What horrible magic is this in Terabang? Kinemon gasped. Shilalalalo. Caesar laughed. See what happens when you think you can defy me. I am the great Dr. Caesar Clown. I am the man who.
Luffy's fist socked him in the jaw, throwing Caesar backward into his gas. The mental command holding the Shinokuni in place failed at the strike, a wave of it advancing toward the pirates. Smoker threw forward a wave of his smoke, but the two states of matter did nothing to each other, the gas passing through the smoke without resistance. Not the best timing, Luffy, Nami yelled, backing up with the rest of the group while still holding a thrashing ace. What now? 3, he muttered. 2, 1, reused reaction. Grace fell from above them, the art thief rolling away her momentum as she threw her hands forward, crystalline cage. A pulse seemed to go through the airborne weapon, the whole cloud freezing in place. From the point closest to the pirate, the gas started to condense in on itself, forming a lattice of purple crystals as solid as ice until the entirety was nothing more than a crisscrossing, translucent web. Who are you? Caesar demanded, waving his hand. Nothing happened. His eyes narrowed, the man trying again to no avail. What, my Shinokuni, what have you done in Terabang? I changed its state, Grace panted. The rest of the Zoro rescue group, along with Zoro and Law, joined the others rallying behind her. She offered a shaky smirk, trying to hide how much energy it took to convert the gas into its new form. It was a simple application of her fruit, something she did regularly to form her argon weapons, but she'd never done it on such a level with such a heavy chemical compound. You're a gas logia, Caesar. It's powerful, but gas is the only thing you can control. If your chemicals turn solid, there's nothing you can do. You, Caesar's teeth ground, his hands moving as if he wanted to strangle her at a distance. A ball of gas formed in his hands, evil-looking crimson swirling in on itself as it built. Just who do you think you are to stand in my way? Some two-bit pirate scientist with a sad little paramecia thinks she can stand up to one of the greatest scientific minds to ever live? You think your powers stand up to those of a fundamental fact of nature? I'll have your breath in every literal, figurative, and metaphorical sense of the word, girl.
Grace stood slowly, maintaining eye contact with the older man. Her lack of response grated on the man's nerves, Caesar throwing the orb of aerosol poison at her. Grace caught it, maintaining the chemicals in their contained form just beyond her fingertips. Slowly, she forced the compounds within to break, using the energy to bond what remained with the hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen in the air, the red poison turning a translucent blue before she allowed it to fall apart into harmless wisps.
So cool, several of the kids whispered. By Goda, she'd missed her powers. Caesar, there are a few variables you seem to have forgotten to factor into this equation of yours, she said. Light bulbs only work so long as there is a void inside the glass. As soon as any air sneaks its way in, the fuse burns and the bulb stops working, shattering in the worst cases. That's rudimentary, the gas man hissed. What are you trying to imply? You are the fuse, your lab is the bulb, and we are the air, Grace grinned. And me? I am the reaction. My fruit might be a paramecia, but I wield the power of the Chem Devil fruit. And now that I have my body and powers back after Law's little stunt, your operation's about to burn out. Caesar's eyes widened as he comprehended her words. A devil fruit that allowed the user to control all base chemicals? Few powers could be such a counter to his own, but this would be one of, if not the, most formidable. The odds of such a devil fruit existing was more than just likely with their innumerable variations, but the odds of that same fruit finding its way here, now, in the procession of one of those standing against him. Improbable bordering on impossible. Only something along the lines of fate, destiny, or divine intervention could align for such chances, all of which simply did not exist. If this pirate had even an ounce of chemistry knowledge, something he was slowly coming to realize was a higher and higher possibility, much to the inverse of what should have been the chances, then a non-combatant like him would be out of his league, in the crosshairs of his perfect predator. He needed to get away. Now, Luffy, the young woman who had quickly become Caesar's worst nightmare, questioned, he's all yours. With pleasure, the pirate captain growled, cracking his knuckles as he slowly approached. You got some shit to answer for, Caesar. The man in question pressed himself against the cracked wall, his escape having been plugged with crystal when the perfect counter of his powers neutralized his Shinokuni. The scratched at the wall, searching for any airflow he could possibly use to get out. Gum gum Black Hawk. Luffy's hockey-coated fist slammed into Caesar's cheek, driving his body, despite his logia constitution, against the wall. The force was powerful enough to crack the areas that were not as sound, primarily what had been melted before. More of the Shinokuni leaked in from the hallway beyond, Caesar grabbing the chance he'd been giving with both hands. He dispersed into his gas form, slipping away in his attempt to run. Crap, Luffy muttered. I didn't think I punched him that hard. I can handle the gas, Grace promised, already preventing the Shinokuni from reaching her fellow humans. That said, I'll need to go with the group after him if we want a chance to catch up. He's not going to want to leave his only defense now that he knows we have a counter. There's no point in us who don't know armament going along, Nami decided. We can't stay here, though. This Shinokuni is a heavy gas, the chemist told them. It doesn't rise easily, so you all should be safe if you go up. Who's going with me and Luffy? Tashigi and I will go, Smoker said. Caesar must answer for his crimes and we have the tools to detain him. Jin and I specialize in armament, Amy offered. Besides, I can't let my little sister run off into petrifying gas without keeping an eye on you. It's my sisterly duty. I'll go, too, Law announced. I know this place well enough that I've got an idea where he's running to. Zoro, Sanji, stay with the others, Luffy ordered. We can handle Caesar with this many people. He left unspoken what would happen if Zoro took a wrong turn on the way like he was plenty likely to do. Everyone else, let's go. But Bucktooth, Ace cried. They didn't have time to address the boys' concerns for the petrified hybrid, however. Taking hold of the gas with her powers, Grace condensed it and pressed it against the wall, the force slowly tearing what had been the door out of the wall, opening a hole. She then crystallized what she could, leaving the rest to form something of a bubble around the group to protect them from the rest of the gas. Under Law's direction, the group took off down the hall. Very rarely did Caesar Clown allow his baser instincts to take over. For a long while, ever since his official induction into Mads, he considered himself well above such human things. After Rikyuit, human needs like food, water, and breath had become optional. He'd also long ago renounced any interest in others, socially or romantically. In short, humanity and their wants were below him. All that mattered was the drive for knowledge and the need to be recognized by a number of individuals he could count on one hand. And then she appeared, likely the only person in the world that could counter his abilities so completely and sick the dogs of war on him. Only someone with her powers could remind the horned scientist of his own mortality in such a sudden way, toppling his plans like a house of cards in the wind.
Thankfully, Caesar was not a man to put all his eggs in a single basket. He still had one failsafe, one built for such a time as this. A device that would wipe out all non-logia life on the island. Surely that would render him safe from the pirate woman whose presence spat in the face of all logical chance.
He just needed to get to the basement. So Trafi, Luffy began, the warlord of their group viscerally flinching at the nickname the other supernova had given him. Smoker, in contract, felt a mixture of empathy and schadenfreude at the knowledge that his own horrible nickname from the rubber pirate was not something unique to him. Where's he going? He's going for the basement, Law answered, directing Grace to take a left turn ahead. I stumbled upon his machine down there while looking for evidence of his relationship with Doflamingo, hoping to find something for blackmail. I was really hoping I'd never need to use the knowledge, though. What machine? Smoker demanded. What does it do? It's a bomb, far as I could tell, Law said. Based on its side, it would destroy half the island and everyone on it. Caesar must think he'd be able to survive such an explosion or he wouldn't leave it there, but there's no chance the Straw Hats, or your Marines would live through such a detonation.
He's thinking he can survive cause he's a logia, Jin deduced as the group ran past the petrified forms of a pair of human-sized monkeys hugging each other in fear. If he can turn into any gas, he'll activate a countdown or something and turn himself into a gas that's not affected by heat and ride out blast. Then the odds are that you and I could also survive, Electric Demon, Smoker commented. It's possible, Law agreed. I'd rather not test it, though. A bomb with that sort of power must be pretty big, Amy said. Where's this basement? I can make us a shortcut there. We'll be over it in the next few minutes, Law told her. That being said, the flooring between the ground floor and the basement is thicker than you think. Don't you worry about that, the blonde promised. Don't doubt the destruction we Straw Hats can bring to bear when the time calls for it. I would expect nothing less from you pirates, Tashigi grumbled. Do you have a problem with us? Jin demanded, if and so. Any grudge you want to settle can wait until we have disarmed Caesar's trump card, Smoker grunted. This coming attack is a much higher priority. Hate to agree with the Marine, but he's right, Grace commented. Keep going forward? Yes, Law nodded. Another 100 feet before we should be in range. The group picked up their pace, covering the remaining distance in silence before coming to a stop at an intersection. Grace pushed the Shinokuni to the edges, walling off the hallways with more crystal. All right, weightless woman, Law said. You mentioned a plan? Something like that, Amy nodded. Jin, you ready to show off that armament? Ready when you are. The pirates and Marines backed away, leaving the pair in the center. Amy set her umbrella aside and crossed her wrists before her. With barely a thought, she hopped upward, reducing her mass until she held the same density as the air, the woman balancing herself upside down on the ceiling. Underneath the blonde, Jin pulled his tonfa from his sleeves and closed his eyes, his electric wings flaring out behind him. The two focused, their armament hockey forming on their hands and growing up their arms. Jin's crawled over his tonfa, black lightning forming as the weapons began to spin while Amy's spiraled up her arms, covering the burn scars thereupon. Weighted thunder, the pair intoned, Amy kicking off the now cracked ceiling. The air in their little bubble rapidly thinned as her mass increased, black lightning now.
Jin's tonfa slammed into Amy's feet as her hockey-coated fists drilled into the floor, the man driving her deeper. The building rumbled as the Kilo woman drilled her way through concrete and bedrock below with nothing but her mass and momentum. And then air moved, flowing into the room from the floor as she broke into the basement, the rush soon followed by the sound of a crash. "Amy," Jin called down the hole, "you okay?" "Yeah." Path created, Jin gestured, replacing his tonfa in his sleeves as his wings disappeared in a crack of thunder and a whiff of ozone. He picked up her umbrella and dropped it down the new opening. "I'm first," Luffy called, diving into the hole. Smoker sighed, dispersing himself into smoke and flowing down after the excitable pirate. One by one, the other pirates and marine followed until the hallway intersection was empty, Grace going last after ensuring no Shinokuni gas would follow them. The basement below was cavernous, most of it natural with stalactites and stalagmites removed only in the places where they would have gotten in the way. The room itself was empty save for a massive machine. It was ring-shaped in design, a control panel of some sort standing out. It certainly seemed impressive, but the only important part was the big red button. "Oh, button." Luffy grinned. "Don, no," Jin hissed, grabbing his captain by the wrist. "This is Caesar's contingency?" Tashigi questioned, studying the machine. "How does it work?" "It's not your traditional explosive," Grace commented, studying the machine. "Whatever this is, it's not chemical in basis." "Then what powers it?" Jin blinked. "I haven't a clue," Law replied, reaching forward as a room spread from his palm. Smoker and Tashigi drew their weapons, ready to assume the man had turned on them, but Law simply appeared over the device and swung his sword, the weapon cutting a small section out of the back of the machine, revealing that the center of the ring was hollow. He returned to his original position, the room fading away. "I'm a doctor, not a scientist, but that should be enough to render this thing inert. Now we just need to corner Caesar." "He's coming this way," Luffy informed them. "What will happen if he tries to use that thing now?" Amy asked. "Probably nothing," the warlord answered. "Why? Everyone, hide, don't give the gas ass a way out." She shot upward, hiding in the hole they'd used to enter and using her umbrella to block what little light came through it. The rest of the pirates and marines hid among the stalagmites, waiting. Within moments, Caesar's gas form moved through one of the vents, the amorphous man moving at the speed of a run despite his current lack of legs. He materialized before the machine, his fingers already pushing buttons as the terminal booted up. "Freeze," Smoker ordered, the tip of his jute pressing into the scientist's back, its sea prism stone eliminating access to his powers. Caesar flinched, his hands rising slowly. "Caesar Clown, you are under arrest for crimes against humanity. Turn around slowly." Caesar growled, his teeth grinding as he did, his yellow eyes glaring at the pirates that appeared to cut off his escape, each with hockey coating their hands or weapons. Tashigi pulled a pair of sea stone handcuffs from her pocket and approached. "You think you've trapped me?" Caesar asked. "Have fun in hell?" His hand swung down, pressing the big red button. Grace, Tashigi, Jin, and Amy flinched as the machine rumbled only for the backside of the device to explode, scattering debris on the other side and knocking stalactites loose but proving to be no more dangerous than THHIS words. "Caesar Clown, you can submit yourself to arrest the easy way or we can beat you and arrest you the hard way." Glaring and scowling, the man reached his arms forward, allowing Tashigi to cuff him. Luffy cracked his knuckles again. "Are we done here?" "Yes, Captain," Grace said. "I think we're done here." "Oh," Luffy pouted. "I wanted to punch him again." "I think we've got a different question now," Jin commented. "Mainly, how hell do we get out of here?" As it turned out, getting out of the basement without a logia fruit was incredibly difficult, especially with Caesar's shifty eyes looking for every opportunity to escape despite the seed prism stone cuffs. Luffy, Amy, and Law ended up having to widen the hole in the ceiling before backing away as Grace redirected and crystallized the Shinokuni gas that flowed in. Restructuring said chemical into a ladder was almost trivial by comparison, but clearing the way so that no one petrified was the most difficult part. Thankfully, once Caesar had been cuffed and most of the gas dealt with, overall cleanup turned out to be pretty easy. Law was quick to locate the crew's Den Mushi, such having been put into storage with the rest of the adult Den on the island. For a hidden mad scientist, Caesar had a rather impressive collection of such, each one with different characteristics and colors. One had a shock of pink hair and lipstick, another black hair and a blue body that almost looked scaled, and yet another pink one with pointed sunglasses among the rest. Law identified these snails as connecting to Big Mom, Kaido, and Doflamingo respectively, but not even the warlord could identify every snail. Under duress, Caesar Kid, Tashigi having to make a list of kingdoms, pirates, and marines that had been in contact with Caesar as his raw material suppliers from foodstuffs to the kidnapping of the children. It seemed Dagger would have a field day of internal investigations once the list was passed to someone up the chain while the ones connected to pirates were confiscated. Rear Admiral T-Bone seemed to be Smoker and Tashigi's primary choice to handle the coming investigations. They met with the rest of the group several hours later, Ace's eyes puffy but the boy thankfully asleep in his mother's arms. He had not taken Bucktooth's sacrifice well and cried himself to sleep after a tantrum. Luffy carried him easily as they made their way back to the shore, Grace clearing more and more of the gas as they went. Nami carried the dragon egg, intending to use it to pacify her son when he woke up. "So, Smoker," Nami began as they started their descent, Mary on a call with Sunny telling her they were on their way to the shore. "What are you Marines gonna do?" "I am not sure I understand your question, Cat Burglar," the Commodore replied. "Well, you all could try to arrest us, but I really doubt you want to do that," she explained with a smirk. "That being said, I want to know what your plan is moving forward." "We will take Caesar into custody," the man said. "I have authority over G5 since our commander Vice Admiral Virgo is on leave. As such, it falls to me to see Caesar arrested and these children returned to their parents. After the gigantification has been counteracted, of course." "How?" Mary asked, cutting into the conversation. "Sunny says your ship sank as a result of the Shinokuni affecting its wooden structures. It's a damn shame, too. You had a half-formed Klabouterman in that ship. Luckily, it wasn't sentient yet." "We will just have to request another ship," Smoker answered, his jaw clenching at the information that they had been in the process of forming a Klabouterman. Despite their slow increase in known population, wood fairies born from Marines were far rarer than any other and creating one would have been another thing he could lord over the heads of those who didn't like him. On the other hand, Smoker wasn't sure he wanted to see a being that was a mixture of the Marines of G5. Such a thing would be chaotic at the best of times and unmanageable at worst. "I am not sure we could have fit the children on our warship anyway." "Ah, that's right," Law muttered, a hand coming to rest on his chin. "I suppose I should offer you some thanks while I'm thinking about it, Ghost Ship." "Me?" Mary asked. "What did I do?" Your wanted poster and Moby's subsequent reveal to the world sent tremors through sailing as everyone knew it. "When we get a chance at some point, Polar Tang wants to meet you." "So even your crew has a Klabouterman, Surgeon of Death," Smoker sighed, running a hand through his hair. "What a pain. HQ will want to know about this." "How long do you think it will take the other Marines to arrive with a ship that can carry the kids?" Nami asked, redirecting the conversation. "Assuming they have more discipline than these fools?" Tashigi muttered, ignoring the insulted, "Hey," of G5's lesser members. "A day. Maybe two. Less if there's a large enough ship nearby already, but I wouldn't count on that." "That's a long time for these kids," Chopper commented, keeping an eye on the children as they played in the halls behind them, Kaku and Coby looking after them while keeping their senses on the lookout of any dangerous creatures remaining. Thankfully, it seemed most of them had either fallen victim to the gas or were smart enough to avoid such a large group. "Their symptoms will return by tonight if we don't manage to do anything." "Caesar," Grace muttered, forming an argon guitar and setting the purple blade at the neutralized Logia's throat. "Please, tell me you found a depressant to counteract the NHC-10. "Why would I?" The horned man sniffed, turning his face away from the shorter chemist. "I am unaffected by such chemicals and anyone on the island who was affected by it would have been under my direction or befallen to it by their own stupidity. It is not my problem if idiots go and get themselves killed." "No, but we're making this your problem now," the diminutive pirate commented. "While the Marines request a ship, you, Chopper, Law, Jin, Big Sis, and I will be working on a counter for the drug." Hell am I supposed to do to help?" Jin questioned. "I mean, Amy can bacon, that's almost science, but me?" "Security," Grace waved off. "Don't worry too much about the details. Mary, do you want to come, too?" "Nah," the white-haired fairy waved off. "You got enough folks already and I want to help Frankie make sure Sunny's alright when she comes back." "If you're Sue," Caesar elbowed Grace as she redirected her attention, the scientist trying to make a break for it as one hand dug through his coat. Finding what he was looking for, the cuffed man turned, holding a heart in his grasp. "Stop," he ordered, holding the organ over his head. "Release me now, or the pirate hunter dies." Zoro blinked with his one good eye, the sound of his moniker dragging his attention in. What's this got to do with me?" "This is your heart, swordsman. If I crush it, you will die, it doesn't matter how strong you are." The pirates glanced at each other, those with observation sensing an aura of smugness practically radiating off the warlord in their midst. "I lied to you, Caesar," Law grinned. Nervous sweat started to bead on the scientist's face. Slowly, Caesar lowered the heart and looked down at it, noting that the organ was still and somewhat cold to the touch. "But speaking of hearts, that's a good idea, room." Law stabbed forward with his oversized sword, Caesar letting out a silent scream as his own heart was removed from his body. It quickly appeared in the warlord's hand, the man offering it to Smoker. "It's not exactly a chest full," the pirate doctor joked, "but here's his heart. Caesar's useless to me if Doflamingo's already decided to get rid of him. A quick squeeze of this should keep him in line from now on." "A squeeze, you say?" Smoker responded, accepting the offering. He compressed it between his fingers, causing Caesar to double over, clutching at his chest with a gasp. "I see. That's actually very useful." "What? No thank you." As if I would ever thank a pirate. I don't really care either way. Smoker stuffed the heart in his coat, ignoring the warlord. Damn it, Caesar hissed, throwing the one he held to the floor. It shattered like ice upon contact, causing one of Law's eyebrows to raise. That didn't usually happen. All right, Caesar, Grace said, marching toward the taller man with a grin that sent a shiver down his spine. You've had your fun now. Regroup and get started? I'll catch up later after I've cleared the shore. I suppose that's acceptable, the doctor nodded, grabbing Caesar by the collar. Come on, we've got work to do. Most of the indicated group left, following the warlord and the scientist who dragged his shoes along the floor in a vain attempt to slow the coming of his fate. When will you put out that call, White Chaser? Robin inquired. Not that any of us intend to eavesdrop on your conversation, of course, but surely it would be for the best if you commenced said interaction post-haste. What do you want? The man asked. What? Robin parroted, covering her mouth with a hand. I'm sure I don't know what you mean. I imagine she's asking how much you're going to tell your bosses, Sanji clarified around a cigarette. Will you tell them we were here? That we worked together? Where we're going? Where are we going again? Luffy blinked. Dressrosa, sweetheart, Nami sighed with a not insignificant undercurrent of fondness. Remember? The harpy took Velo to Doflamingo at Dressrosa and Kinemon's friend is already there? Oh, right, Luffy nodded. I'd almost forgotten about that crazy bastard. He's the one who cut me during the war.
He is. Zoro blinked. Yeah, the captain muttered, one hand shifting from Ace's back to the edge of the X-shaped scar his sleeping son currently covered. After Akainu got my brother and Coby almost died saving me, Mingo caught us. I couldn't move at all and he cut this scar into me, telling me I was too entertaining to kill.
Then I guess we'll just have to return the favor, Usopp commented with a sagely nod. We'll see how amusing he thinks our crew is once we rip him off his throne. You realize that, as a warlord, he has the protection of the world government for as long as he does not threaten them or civilians, yes, Smoker reminded them.
Yet you want us to take him down, Sanji breathed. I don't think you ever told us why, though.
Isn't funding Caesar Clown and making deals with Kaido enough reason? Obviously not, Robin said. If that much was adequate, then the Marines could simply revoke Doflamingo's title, stripping him of his protections. Rather, there is some other reason you have asked us to accept the role as a strike force. Maybe a grudge against the warlord system after your experience with Crocodile? Perhaps you think us expendable? You needn't worry, Robin Schwan, Sanji noodled. Unlike the men, you aren't expendable to me. Shut your gob, you swirly-eyed bastard, Zoro snarled. Make me, moss for brains. The pair rammed their foreheads together, growling. Everyone ignored them with the ease of practice. Smoker and Tashigi copied their example while sections of the Marine foot soldiers did the opposite and took sides in the argument. It's the people of Dressrosa, isn't it? Nami asked. If the government made any move against Doflamingo, he'd be able to take the whole country captive with his position as king. If they like him enough, Dressrosa could even go revolutionary. If something happened, it'd be on the Marines' shoulders. That's why you want us to do it. All these details are giving me a headache, Luffy complained. He's a bad guy doing bad guy things, right? If that's the case, Koby'll want us to go stop him in the name of his dream. Besides, Trafi wants to kick his ass and Kin and Momo need to go there anyway. That's all there is to it. Woe is me to not be able to live such a simple life, Tashigi moaned. Trust me, copycat, Mary grinned. Nothing about our lives except our captain's reasoning is that simple. I wouldn't have it any other way, though. The chaos and insanity is why I love this crew. I thought it was because you're a mixture of all of us, Usopp blinked. I'm a mixture of most of you, Mary corrected. She tapped her head with a finger. I've got practically no Frankie in here and nothing from Brooke nor Billy. And though she's not a member anymore, I do have a bit of. Bup, Usopp warned, covering the Klabouterman's mouth. I already know you have a connection to Vivi Nefertari, Princess of Alabasta, Smoker said, an eyebrow quirked. None of the pirates replied verbally, but the way a number of the oldest members, not in age but in length of membership, almost ironically. And Billy turned gave them away. Tashigi gaped at her commanding officer. Smoker having refused to tell her even after 2 years. You gave it away when we talked on the ice, Straw Hat. Oh yeah, I forgot, Luffy laughed. I always was pretty bad at keeping secrets. Yeah, Vivi's a friend. Luffy, shut up, Usopp hissed. What if they put a bounty on her in Terabang? They won't, the rubber pirate said. Smokey's known for 2 years now and they haven't, so they won't now. Odd as this instance may be, our captain makes a compelling argument, Robin offered. The world is doomed, the sniper lamented. Fatherhood has made Luffy smarter and the universe cannot support it. I can make good arguments. About what? Usopp questioned, rounding on the rubber pirate. The pros and cons of each type of meat? Well, yes, the captain replied, double-checking that his son was well and truly asleep. But I can also argue about how my SX life is better than yours, Usopp. Luffy, Nami and Usopp yelled as they turned red, one in embarrassment and the other in anger. Luffy laughed with the rest of the pirates. Minus Sanji, who was foaming at the mouth, and ducked under Usopp's attempted grapple. Brook and Frankie in particular made their humor about the situation known, the former plucking a jolly tune to go with the merry chase. VVV Nefertari was a member of your crew in Terabang, Tashigi gasped, finally regaining use of her jaw. Wah, how, why? It's actually a pretty funny story, Nami grinned, thankful for the excuse to move back to a more wholesome subject. She ignored the sniper trying, and failing, to catch her slippery husband. We first met her when she was trying to kill our musician's island whale Laboon. The navigator proceeded to tell the story of their first few adventures in the Grand Line, with a few edits and omissions to limit the roles of others like Dalton and Kureha, who could be seen as guilty of something in the wrong light, but it confirmed how the crew met Amy, Grace, Chopper, and Robin, if not in that exact order. The length of the story lasted until they reached the first floor and stepped out toward the doors the children had broken in their addiction-fueled rage. The outside world is scary, Momonosuke muttered after hearing of the Straw Hat's adventures. Sword fights he could understand, and he was slowly coming to understand the idea of devil fruits, but the idea of true giants on an island of prehistoric monsters terrified him. If you think that's crazy, wait until you hear about the zombies, Nami grinned. That's where Luffy and I finally got married and Zoro actually fought an undead samurai. Undead samurai in Terabang. Both Momonosuke and Kinemon gasped. Who in Terabang? Where in Terabang? We're here. Grace gestured for them to stop, the chem woman stepping forward as she moved her hands. The remaining Shinokuni in the area began to swirl inward, bits of it rising from the snow and the rest from the air as it slowly condensed into a ball in front of the artist and thief. She focused, forcing the sphere of dangerous gas into a smaller and smaller space, sweat beading the back of her neck. Several minutes passed before Grace muttered something, the outside of the sphere crystallizing from the bottom up, creating a ball a little bigger than the average human heart. She could not just stop, the redhead pulling the sphere to herself. Her hand dropped under the weight as it settled in her palm. That, she panted, should be the last of it. That's the entirety of the remaining gas, Smoker clarified.
No, but everything left should be so diluted that it isn't dangerous, the young woman responded. She eyed the sphere in her hand, the whole thing glittering like a very dangerous purple gemstone. Could we do with this? One wrong move and the shell will crack. Pardon me, but I don't trust the Marines nor the government with it.
I don't blame you, Smoker admitted. If that thing were on a ship with my men, they would find a way to break it within 15 minutes of sailing. That said, I am uncomfortable leaving it to you pirates. We don't want it around, Usopp said. What if it breaks on the Sunny? I don't want to risk it. Sounds like our only choice is to drop it into the sea, Mary commented, leaning over to study the crystallized gas. More than likely, some sea king will swallow it and petrify from the inside, using up the rest of the gas. If not, it'll disperse into the water and dilute to the point where it's only a risk for minnows. I don't exactly like it, but it's the best plan we've got, Grace agreed. Well, I'll carry it for now, if that's okay with you all. No objections from us, Robin nodded. The group parted as they exited the building, the children rushing past to play in the snow once more. The petrified forms of scotch, rocks, and the eel crabs quickly became something like jungle gyms for the kids, morbid as the image was. With the children now out of harm's way, Coby and Kaku rejoined the group. What did we miss? The ancient zone questioned. Not too much, Luffy replied as Mary called Sunny again, this time to tell her the shore was safe. Grace moved to the edge of the water, making sure that there was not enough Shinokuni in the lake or floating about at the edge of her range to damage their ship as she returned. We were just telling Smoker about our first couple months in the Grand Line. You didn't tell him about my first day with my powers, did you? Not in any detail, the navigator promised, the Rossett letting out a relieved sigh. Grace called dibs on that story. Damn it, Coby muttered. Of course she did. Well? Robin prompted, eyeing Smoker. Best to message your superiors now, White Chaser. Any procrastination is simply more time for you and the children to wait here in the snow. I am aware, the Commodore sighed, reaching into his coat and pulling out his own snail. He stepped away from the group, dialing a memorized number. Hello? A gruff voice answered, the one word still conveying how worn down the individual was. What's the situation? General Inspector Sengoku, Smoker greeted, the snail in his hands straightening at his voice. There's been some developments on Punk Hazard you should be made aware of before I make any official reports. Go on. The Straw Hats beat us to the island, he began. Please, do not ask me how. It was only by their assistance that no one on our side was gravely injured or killed. The snail sucked in a hard breath, visibly trying to calm down. Who was on the island? Dr. Caesar Crown, sir. He had 3 pirates as assistants, but 2 of them turned on him when we arrived and the 3rd was abducted. Do I even want to know? I'm afraid you need to, sir. There were 3 primary experiments happening on the island for 3 different customers. The first, the one that we'll need immediate intervention with, was a gigantification experiment Caesar was performing on children for the Emperor Big Mom. Several of the abducted children he had on the island took to the serum he made too well, growing to the size of young giants. But every child here is addicted to the chemical NHC-10 whether they grew or not. Of course they are, Sengoku hissed. We have Caesar in custody now, Smoker placated. And a select group is working to neutralize the cravings the children have before we leave. Do I want to know who the brains in this select group are? Probably not, sir. And let me guess, you need transport off the island for the children? And for ourselves since our ship was lost to a chemical weapon of Caesar's. I'd also like permission to contact Dr. Vegapunk for treatment to shrink the children back to their normal sizes. Fine. The snail rolled one of its tiny, little, mock hands, mimicking the former fleet admiral's gesture to continue. Granted. What were the other 2 experiments? Caesar's foremost business interest was the creation of a chemical called SAD, something he was shipping to Don Quixote da Flamingo in Dressrosa. Apparently, it is used to grow artificial devil fruits called smiles that he, in turn, is selling to Kaido. Please tell me you've destroyed what there was on the island. We did, Smoker confirmed. There are complications, though. These are connected to the 3rd experiment. And that was, a member of the beast pirates named Dr. Valori Velo was on the island, experimenting on individuals whom we can only guess had eaten these smile fruits, turning them into horrible monsters. Captain Tashigi, myself, and several of the pirates were forced to fight 5 of them. And where is this Velo now? Gone. The Commodore answered. Abducted by Monet of the Don Quixote Familia as a replacement for Caesar according to Trafalgar Law. Law is there, too. He was the other assistant who rebelled when we arrived. By his own testimony, he wanted to take Caesar to bring down Doflamingo for some personal grudge, but Velo's abduction ruined his plan. So let me get this straight, Sengoku sighed, the snail miming rubbing its forehead even though its hands were too small to do that. Our warlord Trafalgar Law was working for a criminal ex-government scientist in a bid to rip down another warlord. Caesar's other assistants, 1. A member of the beast pirates whose Yonko boss Doflamingo is selling artificial devil fruits to, was taken by the other, a member of the Don Quixote Familia, as Caesar's replacement. Did I get all that correct? Yes, sir. To my knowledge, based on your voice, there's more to this story that I am not going to like. Well, the news is a bit mixed. Because of Velo's abduction, Law says Caesar is ours to take and I'm not going to argue with him. The Straw Hats have also agreed to ally with Law to topple Doflamingo from his throne because of slights against their captain during the Marineford War. Straw Hat now considers me a friend after I revealed to him the existence of Dagger. By your command, I will exchange numbers with him and see if we can get him to do some of our dirty work for us. Granted, Sengoku said almost a little too quickly. We just might avoid the destruction of the world government as a whole at this rate. Anything else to report? The Straw Hats have allied with a samurai from Wano and his son, both of whom seem to have a grudge against Kaido. By extrapolation, assuming their raid against Doflamingo is successful, the Beast King will be their next target. There was a sound similar to the deflating of a balloon from the other side of the call. When Sengoku next spoke, Smoker could hurt every year of the General Inspector's age. Why did they have to come back? It wasn't peace, but their 2-year absence was certainly less chaotic. He breathed out a sigh. Have you gained any additional intel on them?
Yes, sir. To begin with, the cat burglar does not possess a devil fruit. Robin, satisfied with what she had heard of the call, dispersed the ear she'd grown on the marine's back. The woman turned her attention back to the shoreline before her, the Thousand Sunny almost leisurely pulling up to the snow-covered land. Her manifestation waved from the rigging.
Sunny, Mary called, waving both her arms. You're good? No petrified pieces or anything? I'm good. The ship replied, her smile nearly visible as the older Klabouterman took to the air with Moonwalk and just about tackled the younger, but taller, with a hug. Sunny, you would not believe what happened in there. I can't wait to tell you all about it. So, several of the Marines questioned, what do we do now? What do you mean? Luffy blinked, turning to the members of G5. Now we do what we always do when we finish one of our adventures. And what would that be? We raid the kitchens and throw a party, of course. Now that Tsihan, the Marines cheered. Party? The little voice of Ace questioned, the boy groggy as he awoke at the sound of the word. Sanji, Luffy called. Take the Marines and find the kitchens. I want all the meat, his eyes widened. And get my snipe, we're eating that, too. We'll see what we can do, the chef replied through a cigarette. Don't get your hopes up, though. It's possible the monsters got to the kitchens before we did. You'll figure it out, and Ace, Mommy has something for you. Wah, he pawed at his eyes, trying to rub the remaining sleepiness from them as Nami came over, offering their son the dragon egg. His eyes widened at the spherical item, his hands reaching out to grab it. You should probably go put this on Sunny, his mother suggested as Luffy set the boy down. I'm sure Mary and Sunny would be happy to help. We don't want to forget about it during the party and have it freeze, do we? No, Ace agreed. That'd be really, really bad. Then you better get going. I'm sure the other kids want to go play with them once you're done. Ace nodded, running toward where Sunny lowered the gangplanks. Nami sighed. Luffy, we're not going to mention Bucktooth, okay? It seems like Ace has forgotten for now and I'd like it to stay that way for as long as possible. You didn't see his tantrum, but I don't want to go through that again. That bad, huh? Nami laughed, turning a smile on her husband. You remember what I was like when we lost money? Luffy paled at the comparison. Yeah, like that. Sorry, I'm glad I missed it. Away from them, Coby stuck up behind Grace, the zone wrapping his arms around her. She didn't jump, so she must have sensed his approach, leaning into his muscular torso. She shifted, raising an item from one of her pockets. Is that a devil fruit? Coby asked. Yup, the redhead grinned. It was a blue apple with swirls. No other decorations to denote its gifts present on its simple pattern. Nicked it from Caesar earlier, but I didn't want the Marines to know. Don't know which one it is, though. We can force the answer out of him tonight, or you can make him fess up later. So, Grace muttered, tucking the fruit back into her pocket, we're taking down another warlord. Nothing new there, the Rosset grinned. This will make what, 3? 3 out of 6 is pretty good for one crew, Grace grinned. And we've got Law on our side, so that's 4. Buggy's a warlord now, and he kicked his ass back in the East Blue. Does that count? Plus, Captain Luffy's got some agreement with Hancock. We've got a pretty good track record. The two stood in silence as they watched the kids play on the petrified remains. As they watched, Ace ran down the gangplank, hurrying to join them. You know, I've got a bone to pick with Joker and his crew, too, the artist, chemist, art thief commented. Not that I ever connected that Doflamingo was Joker until today, but he's got a subordinate that I have to settle a score with. Oh, Coby blinked. Do tell. The king of arts, she said after a moment of silence. The so-called greatest art thief in the world. I've lost several scores to him over the years. He does contract work for Joker. Do you really think he's gonna be in Dressrosa when we get there? Maybe, Grace shrugged. Maybe not, but if you run into him, don't take anything he says seriously. He really is a good thief, but he's got an ego to match. We'll deal with him if he comes, Coby nodded. You know, between helping the kids and the party Captain Luffy wants to throw, it sounds like we're gonna be here through tomorrow. It's likely Doflamingo knows we're coming and will shore up his defenses. Grace didn't reply, the young woman humming to herself. She seemed to come to a decision, turning her head to look at Coby out of the corner of her eye. Coby felt the shift in her body language, the zone turning to look at her. She reached up, grabbing the taller pirate by the hair and dragging his head down so her lips tickled his ear. Get your rest now, she whispered. We're sailing into another dangerous fight, and I'm not waiting any longer than tonight. Coby blushed, the skin of his face taking on a color similar to his hair. Gee Grace, I. She pushed out of his arms, a coy smile tugging at the corners of her lips. I had to go help the others with that depressant and find out what devil fruit we have, she said with a wink. I expect a reward after the party. Coby's lips moved but no words came out. Grace sashayed away, entering the building again as she pulled out her snail to contact the research team for their location. The zone raised a hand, resting it on his burning face. He really hoped no one saw that since he didn't need the teasing. That said, he might not care one way or another by daybreak. Time to show you how pirates party, Luffy grinned, raising a mug of ale to the sky. The pirates had ransacked the lab for every wooden product they could get their hands on, lighting said furniture as a bright bonfire in the middle of the snow. Ingredients they had not been able to find inside had been readily available in Sunny's kitchen, meat, both snipe and otherwise, now roasting over a burning bookshelf. Robin had revealed a package of marshmallows, she and Chopper helping the children roast them while the adults drank. Between the medical knowledge of Law, Caesar, and the Straw Hats as well as Grace's ability to stabilize chemicals that would be otherwise impossible, finding a chemical that could satisfy the children's cravings without the dangers of the NHC-10 was, not trivial, but certainly not as difficult as it could have been. With Amy's expertise, they made a host of new candies, easily enough to last the children until the Marines found the medical help they had promised. Caesar watched all this merrymaking from a spot chained to the outside of Sunny's railing, his mouth gagged so his complaints couldn't ruin their fun. Zoro Dono, Kinnaman demanded, only one mug of booze in and already with a redness to his cheeks. That sword at your hip, it's the Shisui, is it not? How on earth did you get it in Terabang? That is a national treasure of Wano. I fought an undead for it, the green-haired swordsman answered easily. What in Terabang? Kinnaman and Momonosuke gasped, the latter poofing into his dragon form. Yeah, we fought this onion bastard who could control shadows, and his whole deal was stealing people's shadows and putting them in corpses. Is that the mechanism through which Brook Dono moves? Kinnaman asked. No, that's a devil fruit he ate before dying, but it was still how we met. See, Moria, the shadow bastard, took Brook's shadow and put it into the body of a samurai named Ryama.
So this Moria is the one who defiled our sword god's grave. Kinnaman growled, his eyes shadowing. If I should ever meet this man, his head shall decorate a pike for what he did. He turned back to the pirate. I take it, then, that you defeated this marionette of our greatest warrior.
lit up with blue fire and gave me his sword, Zoro confirmed, fingering Shisui's handle. It served me well these last couple of years. Once we return to Wano, I hope you will agree to return Shisui to Ryama's grave, Zoro Dono. Only if I get another sword that's just as good in return, Zoro replied with a shrug. And so, I pulled back Kabuto's pouch, my muscles straining and the wind making my eyes water, Usopp said, his arms spread wide as he regaled the surrounding marines with his story. 100 feet stood between me and my prey, 1 inch off and I would strike Robin, but… Is that 200 or, like, 100 times 100? One of the marines interrupted. What? You said 100. Is that 200 or? Just let him tell the story, another hissed. No, this is important information, another argued. 10,000 is a much more impressive shot than 200. What does it matter? A third questioned, it's not like either of you could do that. The point. Usopp yelled. The point of the wind across the bridge of hesitation and I still managed to nail that ugly panda spandam in the face. Robin can tell you. One moment he was on top of the world and the next he was coughing smoke. It was quite impressive, Robin agreed before any of the marines could argue the validity of Usopp's story, the woman with only one eye open. She was hiding her mouth behind a hand. Quite satisfying as well. Very satisfying indeed, she licked her lips. I've met the guy, Toon commented around a hunk of meat. Spandam's an asshole, he deserved it. Amy dearest? Sanji questioned, rotating the roasting snipe while his boot pressed against Luffy's face kept the salivating captain from diving into the fire after it. Have you seen Grace anywhere? Nope, the blonde replied, her voice tight. A smile was frozen on her face as her hands played with a pair of tongs. And no idea. That's an easy question, Luffy commented, a thumb pointing toward the lab, The tongs in Amy's hand broke with a snap, Luffy's mouth audibly closing as he picked up on her emotions. Sanji froze, his bangs shadowing his eyes. Captain? He asked, his voice devoid of all emotion, permission to? Nope, Luffy denied quickly. I know nothing, you know nothing, give me meat. That. Meat. Luffy dove for the snipe, Sanji's boot shooting out by instinct to knock the rubbery pirate away. It's not done yet, Luffy, and we still don't know if it's toxic. Amy. The weightless woman turned from where the captain and chef were locked in a now familiar wrestling match, the chocolatier finding their crew's monk extending a hand toward her. You look like you could use a distraction. Care to, dance? You don't sound too sure, Jin. I mean, I'm not best dancer, but Brooks promised to help somehow. Amy studied the electric demon for a moment before she grabbed a mug of booze and downed the whole thing in one go. Jin blinked before Amy threw the now empty mug aside and grabbed him by the arm. Well, if Brooks promised to help, you don't have to stay up here with me, Sunny said, she and her fellow Claboutermen lounging in her rigging where they could overlook the festivities below. I mean, we could go get my heart and hang out by the fire where it's warmer. You aren't strong enough to manifest away from the ship, Mary reminded her. And fun as it is to carry your heart around, as spirits just need some time away from the others once in a while. Too true. Sunny shifted as Mary turned to study her. Her hair had stabilized into a red the same color and shape as the mane of her figurehead and the ghostly white of her skin was starting to shift to a more tan yellow pink. But Sunny's face was still missing everything but her indistinct smile. How much longer? How much longer what, Sunny? How much longer until I'm like you? The younger Clabouterman clarified. I want to be able to carry my heart around on land. I want to be able to go shopping and sightseeing. I want to jump off the ship to punch a bastard in the face. I want to be able to show off everything Maker rigged me with but in a hand-to-hand fight. I can't really tell you, Mary shrugged. If the crew as a whole goes through something seriously traumatic together, then by the end of our next adventure. If not, then it could be anywhere between a month and 3. The other spirit seemed to pout. Don't be like that, Sunny. You don't have to be in such a rush. But I want to help our crew, Mary. You're helping, the sheep-like Clabouterman insisted. I can't carry them anymore and you're way stronger than I was as a ship. Trust me, Sunny. You're going to carry us to the One Piece. I know it. How can you know that? I just do, Mary grinned. Trust me. You were made by the best shipwrights in the world.
I should know, I worked with them for 2 years. She looked over, her knowledge of body language telling her that Sunny wasn't quite convinced. Mary reached over, setting a hand on her shoulder. Sunny, really. You'll fully manifest when we most need you to. My 2 greatest manifestations were in Skypia to fix myself up in Ennie's lobby when I went to save the crew. You'll do something just as big, if not bigger, when the time comes.
Yeah, Sunny smiled. Yeah. They watched the party go on throughout the night, individuals bowing out and either making their way into the Sunny to find their bed or moving into the lab in groups of 3 or 4 to sleep in huddles for warmth. By early morning, only Smoker and Tashigi were left by the dwindling fire, the soft music of the restless skeleton musician drifting from the crow's nest roof. Sir? Tashigi asked, her commander staring into the dying embers of the fire. What did the general inspector have to say? Our official report will cover almost everything from the incident here, he replied. The presence of the children and the experiments they were exposed to will remain confidential from non-dagger personnel, the fleet admiral included. Luckily, General Inspector Sengoku has already made a few calls. Vice Admiral Dahl will have space for the children at base G14, so he won't have to explain their presence to Vice Admiral Virgo when he returns from leave. He yawned. We've also been approved to trade numbers with Straw Hat. With luck, he can become a useful asset. Can I? No, you cannot challenge the pirate hunter to a duel in the morning. Tashigi crossed her arms and pouted. Then how about? You can't challenge Trihorn, either. We want them to be willing to do what we ask, Tashigi. Taking their swords would only sour this understanding we have or leave you a bloody mess. Good night, sir, the captain huffed, standing. I'm going to bed, by your leave. Get some rest, Tashigi, Smoker confirmed. I get the feeling we're all going to need it soon. Yes, Monster Doctor, Smoker repeated for the third time. Our pickup will be here in an hour. And yes, they brought a ship large enough to carry the children. And you're certain your men have everything covered? The reindeer doctor questioned.
We can handle it, the Commodore insisted, patting the bag that held the recovery candies the pirates had made the day before. Get going, pirates. I'd rather not explain to command why you're still here, free, after so long.
You all heard Smokey, Luffy called as the morning sun inched its way up the sky. We're setting sail for Dressed Up Rose. Dressrosa, Nami corrected, bopping the captain in the back of the head. Ace and Chopper leaned over the railing, waving at the sniffling children and Marines, wishing them well. I can't wait to grow up, Sind muttered, trying to stifle his tears. I'm gonna be an awesome pirate, too. No, Tashigi gasped, the woman turning frantic as Luffy and his crew laughed at the other children's agreement, even if Coby and Grace seemed a little out of it. They'd had their adventure on Punk Hazard and were ready to move on, leaving the children and the captive Caesar in the care of G5. With Law, Kinemon, and Momonosuke aboard, they set sail for their next adventure. So, Usopp blinked as he and several other crew members helped clear away the dishes from breakfast.
They had left Punk Hazard's frozen shores 2 days ago and Law estimated that it would take another full week of sailing to reach Dressrosa, assuming no unexpected storms tossed them off course. So far, however, the only inconvenience had been a pod of blue sea rabbits swimming with enough force to rock the ship. Considering the usual sea life that rocked the ship on a day-to-day basis, they were doing pretty well. No one's gonna ask why Nami and Luffy are in each other's bodies.
I really don't want to think about it, Coby sighed as he helped gather the plates. Law, several spots away, buried his face in his iced tea with a loud slurp. Come on, the sniper insisted, shifting the dragon egg Ace had entrusted to him on his lap so he could look at the zone. You're not the least bit curious? Incredibly strong observation, remember? The Rosset commented, tapping the side of his head. I really don't want to talk about it. Are you certain? Robin asked, sipping her Alabastian black coffee with 2 cubes of sugar. It is quite the entertaining story. Of course you would know, Amy sighed, pinching the bridge of her nose, because you're AV. I do believe I have previously informed you I care not for that moniker, Robin said, a frozen grin on her face as arms sprouted from Amy's back. The blonde pursed her lips, reaching up quickly to grab the bloomed arms by their wrists before Robin could move them. The archaeologist barely reacted, but Amy could tell she wasn't excited about the tight grip or the small spots of armament hockey threatening to slow the woman's reaction long enough for something bad to happen.
And as I think I've said before, Amy echoed, it's true, so it doesn't matter what your feelings are.
Am I the only one who's lost here? Grace blinked, snacking on a plate of rice crackers. Well, Robin began. Of course not, Coby quickly intercepted. Zoro-sensei's always lost. The Rosset breathed a sigh of relief as his joke earned several laughs and a cold stare from his teacher. Amy released Robin's arms, allowing the dark-haired woman to disperse them into petals without injury. Every hour, you outsiders turn weirder and weirder, Kinemon commented, one eye quirked as he tried to follow the conversation. He had already attempted to question the captain and navigator as to why they had consumed their breakfast with their bodies swapped, something that caused the poor chef of the crew to nearly have an aneurysm between wanting to dote on Nami as he always did but not knowing if that meant offering more to her body or Luffy's. He also could not kick Luffy for his usual stupidity because it would have been the man's wife taking the beating, one way or another. Chopper had to escort the blonde out for physical recovery until the pair finished their food. Mommy and Daddy already said why. Ace piped up from Robin's lap, the boy tracing poneglyphic letters on a sheet the archaeologist had crafted for his learning. Mommy said so, she got mad at Daddy for always eating so much, so he told her to be him to see how hungry he gets, duh. And the only cost of the whole experiment was Sanji's sanity, bahaha. Mary laughed. She didn't believe the excuse for a moment, but just as a part of her enjoyed watching Zoro flounder, so too did a part of her enjoy Sanji's misery. Even now, she could see the amused smirk the green-haired swordsman hid behind his morning booze.
Plus, did you see the look of horror on Captain Na Luffy's face when he actually got full for the first time in his life? Bahahaha.
And Mrs. Lu Nami got to have such a smug smirk while she kept eating.
Sunny's manifestation grinned from behind the older Klabotterman, hands on the back of Mary's chair. She decided against mentioning the navigator's words about working off all the food Luffy ate while in her body as she dragged her husband out of the room. Sunny had inherited Robin's spying habits and was much more informed about her ship's going-ons than the flower fruits user despite Robin's attempts for otherwise. I hate body swapping, Grace groaned, dragging a hand down her face. It just makes things unnecessarily confusing.
It certainly makes asking particular questions more painful, yo-ho-ho, Brooke offered. A welt prominent from his afro still due to his question to Na Luffy that morning.
That's because you don't have any common decency or manners, you lemon-hating brainless bag of bones, Amy sighed. Pardon interruption, Jin said, the lightning man sticking his head into the room from the deck where he'd been borrowing Zoro's workout equipment. Mornin' papers arrived. I think y'all are gonna wanna see this.
We shall join you in a moment, Robin promised. Kaku, could you be a deer and retrieve Frankie from his workshop? I shall summon our captain and navigator. But Wind isn't a deer, Robin, Coby grinned. He's a giraffe. Good one, Horn. The pair shared a high five. Grace dropped her head into her hands. I'm stuck with a moron. You're the one who practically superglued yourself to him, Mary laughed.
Don't remind me. I don't want to say I told you so, Amy began, but.
Big sis, I swear to Goda I will Pavlov you into hating lemons.
You wouldn't dare. Can we just go outside and read the damn newspaper already? Zoro demanded, his empty bottle thunking against the table. I'm out of booze so it's time for my second morning workout.
Zoro Dono, this system of drinking heavily before each workout cannot be healthy, Kinnaman said. It kills me or it makes me stronger. I'm still alive, aren't I?
I do not think that is how such things work. I'll go get Chopper and Sanji, Grace offered, being the first to stand and make her way to the door. The rest of the pirates and guests all but copied her response, the crew and a few meeting on the lawn deck within a few minutes. They were bundled together, each and every one staring down at the paper now resting in the hands of their captain possessed by his wife.
Supernova alliances threatened to shake world, she read from the newspaper's headline. Under it were 2 sections totaling 5 pictures, the article in question printed around the images.
The first pair on the left showed the wanted photos of both Luffy and Law while the other 3 showed Kid, Hawkins, and Apu. She
continued. Breaking today, word has spread from trustworthy sources that 2 new world pirate alliances have formed for as of yet unknown purposes.
The purpose of the first, an alliance between the Warlord, Surgeon of Death, Trafalgar Law of the Heart Pirates and the Straw Hat Pirates under Straw Hat, Monkey D.
Luffy, is theorized by internal sources but nothing has been corroborated or confirmed by the Marines who reported the deal.
Law's status as a warlord is now under contention to be decided by tomorrow.
The second alliance, reported to the World Economic Journal by independent reporter ABSA, is believed to be on the warpath with one of the emperors, but which one is uncertain.
This alliance consists of Captain Eustace Kid of the Kid Pirates, Magician, Basil Hawkins of the Hawkins Pirates, and Roar of the Seas Scratchman Apu of the On-Air Pirates.
What chaos these alliances will cause is yet to be seen. The current states of the other Captain Supernovas, Glutton, Jewelry Bonnie, Mad Monk, Urogue, and Red Flag, X-Drake are currently unknown while last reports have Gang, Beige now as a member of the Big Mom Pirates. For more information on the pirates and crews in question, see page 7. Well, that didn't take long, Coby commented as Lu Nami rifled through the paper to see what more it might have to say about them. Seeing Luffy's body reading something other than a menu with such an interest was jarring and the Rossett almost begged Law to switch them back. I wonder if Smoker told his higher-ups about his targeting Doflamingo. If he did, I wouldn't be surprised if they warned him. He should already know we're count, he said. Monet got away to report to him. Caesar isn't a fighter, so without her help, Monet knows we'd beat Caesar and that we're targeting the Don Quixote Familia next. Law scowled, a hand reaching up to press against his chest. Is something wrong, Traffy? Na Luffy questioned. He still wore his straw hat despite not being in his body currently. The other pirate captain leaned away as Luffy got too close. It's nothing, just, we need to know what's wrong, Grace interrupted. If there's a hole in our plan, we need to be able to plan around it. Law's hand fisted, the passenger on the sunny gritting his teeth. He growled. Doflamingo has my heart. Wow, Mary blinked. I didn't think he was your type, but with that hate bow. Mary, Usopp chastised before she could finish. That's not what I meant, ghost ship. The Surgeon of Death hissed, his eye twitching at the mischievous, knowing smirk on the Klabouterman's face. Do not make light of this situation. Caesar had us remove our hearts while under his employ to appease his need for control. Monet got to them before I did, presumably taking back her own and absconding with mine and Velo's while she was at it. Luffy raised a hand. Absconding means to steal and get away, Captain, Coby interjected. Luffy lowered the hand. Law blew out a hard breath. I could die at any point if Doflamingo feels the urge to crush my heart once he gets it.
Do you think he will? Amy asked. I don't know, he admitted. I don't think he would. Doflamingo's a sadistic bastard willing to kill his own family, but he'd derive more fun by hanging my heart over my head and torturing me with it. I wouldn't be surprised if he uses it like a stress ball as soon as he gets it. If that's the case, I'm going to be more of a liability than anything else. On the bright side, we'll know as soon as he gets it.
How? Ace asked. I'll double over in pain out of nowhere. Oh, the boy blinked. That's bad, right? Yes, Ace-chan, Robin nodded. That is bad. Then getting your heart will have to be one of our first priorities, Law, Coby noted. I imagine Doflamingo won't let something that important far from him. Not unless he gives it to one of his officers, Law agreed, but I think he might want to kill me himself after what happened years ago. On top of that, he's the king of Dressrosa and can mobilize their standing army if he chooses to. Those soldiers wouldn't be to the level of any of his crewmates or any of you. But they are still a New World army and could overwhelm any of us if they catch us alone. So we just gotta infiltrate a country that knows we're coming, Jin began, counting his points on his fingers. Sneak into a warlord king's castle steal your heart back before he gets bored o torturing you. Take down said warlord and all his crew. And maybe gotta worry about Marines joining fight on their side. Did I miss something? The Marines are not aware of our goal, Robin offered. At least, not a great majority of them. Smoker reported to former Fleet Admiral Sengoku of the true events of Punk Hazard, who in turn ordered him to give Sakazuki what amounts to a redacted report. Whether the Marines as a whole know we are going to Dressrosa or not, however, remains unknown. We could just call him and ask, Luffy suggested. I mean, we do have his number now. You really want to go all in on being Smoker's friend, don't you, Captain Luffy? Coby questioned. Why not? Smokies finally started coming around. Oh, Garp, why? Lu Nami sighed, dragging attention to where she'd been reading the rest of the report on their crew. Did Gramps do something? Her husband possessing her body asked. In response, Lu Nami held up the paper, gesturing to a particular section. My adorable great-grandson, by Vice Admiral Monkey D. Garp, the headline read. What followed was a picture of a handwritten letter in the most atrocious handwriting any of them had ever seen. Beside it was the best approximation the newspaper could glean from the letter. The end of it specified that the section had been paid for by Garp to be printed unedited. Luffy, Sanji muttered, your grandpa's a nutter. Perhaps, senile, is a better description, Sunny suggested.
Seriously, Frankie agreed. Who super pays to publish a handwritten letter about their great-grandson for no reason?
You can't even read half of it, Grace said. Old man Garp writes real bad, Ace laughed, pointing at the printed letter. Some of that's not even real letters, gee. Robin leaned over, a hand rising to her chin as she studied the puff piece. She hummed. The handwriting was truly atrocious, but it also seemed familiar for some reason she couldn't place. Can we get back to the warlord? We're getting ready to attack when he knows we're coming in. Terabang, Usopp demanded. It really isn't the optimal plan, Mary agreed. It's the hand we've been dealt, though. We just need to run through it. If we wait, there's all the chance in the world that Doflamingo pops Law's heart like a grape just 'cause he can. Ew, Ace muttered. That's mean. Kid, mean, is the most underwhelming description of Doflamingo possible, Law grunted. He's a murderous psychopath with a god complex, ready and willing to kill, manipulate, and blackmail his way through the world, causing chaos and leaving death, destruction, and lamentation in his wake. He's a heartless, slimy madman too powerful for the government to touch because they know he only keeps his destruction contained because they appease him, and his crewmates are no better. They gather around him because they admire the destruction and misery he has, and can, rot. Ace stared at the rival pirate captain, blinking slowly. Law deflated. Yes, he sighed, resting his face in his hands as he remembered why he didn't deal with brats. Doflamingo's a really mean guy. I knew it, Daddy wouldn't agree to punch a good guy. I don't know, Coby commented. The first time I met your father, he punched me.
He did. I did. Luffy blinked. Oh yeah, I did. I forgot you used to be such a scrawny coward, Coby. Shishishi.
What's he talking about? Amy asked. Coby coughed, trying to ignore the curious side eyes he was getting from later members of their crew like Frankie and Sunny. It's nothing, really, the Rossett tried to wave off. We just had a. First time we met, Coby was a forced cabin boy on this fat lady's ship, Luffy said without a hint of hesitation. The ancient zone moved to strangle the captain only to remember he was currently in the navigator's body. Luffy spread his arms wide, apparently forgetting he didn't have his rubber powers for emphasis. She was this big, fat, ugly whale with a club and he was this small, whiny baby going on about becoming a marine admiral someday. He even tried to say me finding the One Piece would be impossible. Oh, right, Usopp recalled. You were just starting to learn from Zoro when we met. Didn't even have real swords yet. We're getting on a tangent again, Grace commented, patting the top of a pouting Koby's head. Cute as small Coby was, it doesn't help us with our current predicament. We have 3 main goals for our assault, Robin offered. We must retrieve Law's heart, we must liberate Dr. Velo so the Don Quixote Familia cannot utilize her services, and we must defeat Doflamingo. Velo's survival isn't that much of a concern, Law said. In fact, we cannot let her get back to Kaido with the secrets she must know. On the other hand, we need to destroy Doflamingo's smile factory. Velo's still a priority, Lou Nami interjected, nearly crumpling the newspaper in her barrowed hands. I still need my pound of flesh for her snagging ace. Do not forget locating Kanjuro, Kinnaman added. Liberating my homeland requires all the swords we can locate and, as one of the red scabbards, Kanjuro is one of the few skilled samurai we can be sure is still loyal to our true daimyo. Do you really think one guy is going to make that big a difference against someone LD? How do you know Doflamingo hasn't killed him by now? I'd be terrified if we didn't have you or Luffy or Sanji or Jin, Chopper piped up. While not to the same degree, I agree with Chopper, Coby commented. We're pretty strong, but these are still New World warriors we're talking about, Zoro-sensei, and Wano samurai at that. Rayleigh-sensei had plenty of stories about one person turning the tide of a battle. Let me at him, Nah, Luffy cheered, a Monkey D smile stretching Nami's lips further than they usually went as Luffy punched the air. We'll find Candigo and send Mingo flying. Can you and Nami please go back to normal? Grace begged. It's too weird seeing you act like that in Nami's body.
Why? Nah, Luffy asked. I'm enjoying myself. I mean, other than not being able to eat as much as I usually do and Nami's hair getting in my face sometimes. Speaking of, I'm hungry. Sanji, get me something orange. Why?
Me too. Me too. Ace cheered, running over to his father-mother who scooped him into his arms. Uncle Pervy cook, second breakfast, please. RRRRRR, Sanji bit his tongue, his visible eye twitching as he tried to not foam at the mouth. Nay, Trafi, Mary grinned, turning her eye on their pirate guest. Can you swap Zoro and Sanji? I'd love to see that. Hell no. The pair screamed in tandem, pointing at each other. I'd rather die than have to spend even a second in his swirly-browed, moss-headed ass.
I'm sure both of them would have different answers if it were Robin they were switching with, Usopp muttered. Robin Kwan, Sanji noodled. Shall we? Like hell. Zoro yelled at the same time. Being in Billy's body was bad enough. And no woman deserves to have you anywhere near them, Pervy cook, much less inside them. Bahahaha. Mary laughed, the ram sheep like Klabouterman being joined by Sunny and Luffy while the others only chuckled. Daddy, Ace said. Uncle Pervy cook and Uncle Stupid Moss are fighting again. And what did Mommy tell you to do when that happens? Nah, Luffy asked. Oh, right. Ace turned as well as he could. Uncle Jin, Uncle Cook and Uncle Moss are fighting again. You're offloading them onto me. The lightning man questioned. Mommy said she doesn't want to deal with them. How does this crew get anything done? Law muttered to himself, rubbing his face as Jin smacked the arguing pair in the back of their heads with his tonfa. This, predictably, did not settle the argument and only got Jin involved in the ensuing brawl as swords and feet came out. This was a terrible idea. We're not that bad, Chopper insisted. The background noise is rather constant, Robin added, but you get used to it. In fact, I would go so far as to call it calming. That, Law gasped, keeling over as his hands shot to his chest. He fell over, gritting his teeth as what he'd predicted came to pass. Law, Trafi. Law's breathing turned ragged and uneven, the pirate doctor rolling into his side as he gasped for breath. Chopper ran over to him, but there was nothing the reindeer could do as the captain of the Heart Pirates flailed in pain for several minutes before he finally fell silent, panting hard. Alright, he hurt Trafi, Nah, Luffy growled, punching a fist into the opposite palm. We watched him hurt Trafi. No more games, double speed for Dressy Rose. It's time to kick Mingo's ass hard. The kingdom of Dressrosa was not an expansive kingdom with dozens of cities and towns like Alabasta. Rather, like many countries in the Grand Line, it was practically one massive city that covered the island for which the country was named. Unlike what it might seem from the air, Dressrosa was made of 5 cities that had grown to the point where the borders between them had blurred, all focused around the King's Plateau and the castle there. Balsa was the city to the north with Primula to the west. To the south was Acacia, the largest city boasting both the South Harbor and the Corrida Coliseum. To the east-southeast stood Sebio and to its north and to the east of Balsa was the final city of Carta with the East Harbor. These 5 cities, which, at their size, were more like districts to a greater metropolis, were themselves surrounded by massive boulders that made assaulting the island more costly than anyone other than the world government could afford. The only entrances onto the island were the south or east harbors or the bridge connecting the island to Greenbit off the west coast. The castle in the center was a grand structure, its architecture unchanged save for minor repairs and additions since its first construction during the Void Century.
The castle's height and grandeur only compounded with the height of the king's plateau, allowing one at its pinnacle to see every border in the country.
And how the country had changed in the 10 years since Doflamingo returned to his family's ancient homeland.
The buildings had been bland and boring, made with structure in mind because there was little money to go around between the infrequency of New World traders and the outflux of the heavenly tribute. Now, with the money his rule had brought in through every channel imaginable and no more need to give more than a paltry sum for the tribute, the buildings were colorful and beautiful. The sight made Doflamingo's mad smile widen as he leaned against one of the castle's windows. Yes, life was good for the royal warlord. Young master, a voice said, the king of the land turning to the door. A young man with white hat and horns offered a small bow. Baby 5 and Buffalo have returned with Virgo and Monet. They have the scientist. Excellent, the warlord grinned. He was a tall man, tall enough to stare eye to eye with the likes of Bartholomew Kuma and Gecko Moria, with short blonde hair and skin tanned from hours in the hot Dressrosa sun. He wore casual, breathable clothing that possessed a plunging neckline and a coat of pink flamingo feathers that acted more like a cape. His eyes hid behind pointed, red shades, but his wide smile was more than enough to convey his emotions. Bring them to the throne room, Dellinger. I'll meet them there. Then go tell Sugar her sister's returned.
Dellinger took his leave at the king's command, leaving the man alone once more. Long legs carried Doflamingo through the hallways, guards and pirate crewmates alike bowing to him as he passed. A pair of armored soldiers opened the doors to the throne room as he approached, the man not needing to slow down as he entered and walked to his throne. His expected arrivals entered not 2 minutes after him, the man having felt their approach. His smile continued to widen as they drew closer, his eyebrows rising at Monet's new look. She stood on one side, Virgo on the other, with them both flanking a small woman with periwinkle hair in a lab coat. Monet and Virgo knelt, though Monet had to get a bit creative with her new bird legs, while the scientist between them glared at the king.
Virgo. Young master, the man replied. Monet, wonderful to have you back after so long, beautiful Waynes. Thank you, young master, the woman answered. It's wonderful to be back. I hope Sugar's doing well.
She is. Been positively dying to see you again from what the others have told me. The man on the throne turned to the shortest member of the trio and flared the smallest amount of conqueror's hockey he could. Kneel.
I don't answer to your dreadful orders, Valori Velo spat. The oppressive force nothing compared to what she'd been exposed to while living in Wano before her relocation to Punk Hazard 2 years prior.
Oh. Doflamingo questioned, impressed that she could handle that much, no matter how little it actually was. Virgo raised a transparent cube and prepared to squeeze it but backed down from a glance from his captain. Why not?
The number of people I respect enough to kneel for I can count on one hand, and you don't make that dreadfully short list, government dog. That's right, Doflamingo chuckled, tapping his head as if he'd just remembered some interesting factoid. You're AW. One of Queen's little pupils, right? You are not worthy to speak his name, Velo yelled, stepping forward as one of her eyes took on a red gleam and her teeth sharpened. When Queen Sama hears what you've done to me, the results would be most Drea. She doubled over onto her knees, one hand clutching at her chest as she struggled to breathe. Virgo, Doflamingo warned. My apologies, young master, the Marine said, releasing his grip on the heart in his hands. Velo's breathing eased, the woman taking in deep breaths to try to calm down. I could not accept her tone with you. I understand, Virgo, but some people take a little longer to learn the ways of the world. The tyrant king turned his eye on the scientist again. When in my kingdom, under the roof of my castle, you will give me the respect I am due as both a king and a warlord. This attitude will only be amusing for so long before I get bored of it and decide your lip overshadows your usefulness.
Why you wouldn't? Velo gasped. You can't. Kaido and Queen Sama would bring dreadful war to your kingdom. And I know too much you don't have access to. The Marines have surely captured or killed Caesar Clown by now. Don Quixote Doflamingo laughed. It was not a chuckle or a giggle, but a loud, hearty, full-belly laugh that filled the room with his voice. Velo's eyes widened, the small woman taking a step back. I wouldn't, Doflamingo echoed through his lowering chuckled. I don't think you know who I am, Valori Velo. I am the king of Dressrosa, the warlord Don Quixote Doflamingo. In this country, my word is law. I can do whatever I want. I don't answer to, she doubled over again with a gasp. The king's smile faded. Virgo. Sorry, young master. Virgo loosened his grip on the heart again. Monet, tell me everything. Caesar was useful, but he was far more eccentric than Velo, the harpy said. She also conducted research into the sad formula behind his back, not just the smiles and their users. She upgraded the formula to increase Smile's success to 50% and managed to find a way to specify what type of animal the zone power might be thanks to her knowledge of the lineage factor. She calls this new formula GLAD. She was planning on running to Wano and cutting us out of the Smile business. I see, the blonde nodded. Well, with Caesar gone, we don't need to sink money into that lab of his anymore and we don't even need to pay this one. Excuse me?
Velo coughed. Why you think you can make me work for you? Dreadful chances, I assure you. Oh Velo, you are a treat, the warlord chuckled. You think you have a choice in the matter? Monet, I'm putting you in charge of Velo and the lab. It's connected to the toy house at the base of the King's Plateau. You can gather workers from the toys under Sugar. I'm sure you won't say no to working alongside your sister? Many thanks, young master, Monet replied with a bow and a smile. I gladly accept. Well, I'm happy with all this. Anything else to report? The Straw Hats should be on their way. It was them and the Marines of G5 that Law sided with against Caesar.
G5, that's your branch, isn't it, Virgo? Yes, young master, the stoic man replied. Would you like me to deal with them?
No, there's no need for that. Doflamingo waved off. Return from your vacation early. See if you can catch them with Caesar still in their possession. If you can't, it's no big loss. I just want to know where he ends up. And if I can, silence him. He knows too much about our operations and I wouldn't mind getting my hand on his devil fruit. You know the gladiators fight harder when there's a devil fruit as a prize.
Of course. I'll leave as soon as I can. One more thing, the harpy said, gesturing to Virgo with a wing. We have a present for you, young master. Virgo stood, reaching into his long coat to pull another heart from within. He offered it to their captain.
Law. That was all Virgo needed to say for the king's expression to light up like a spoiled child on Christmas morning. It must be my birthday, Doflamingo laughed, accepting the beating organ to study it. How'd you get Law to remove his own heart? Torture? It was Caesar's idea, Monet said. He was so insecure from Law's presence that he demanded Law, Velo, and I remove our hearts to give him leverage over us. We went to get Velo's heart to control her, but poor Law was too slow on the uptake and missed his chance to get his back, so he took it too when we left. This is the best gift you all could have given me. Poor Caesar. I'd send him flowers if I could. Oh well. I'll just enjoy this to the fullest. He squeezed the heart, relishing the knowledge that, somewhere, Law was writhing in pain. Now then, I think you all have places to be. Two of the three bowed, Virgo grabbing Velo by the arm and dragging her away. Sugar was waiting just outside the door, her and Monet having a loud, happy reunion as the door closed. Doflamingo slowly released his grip on the heart, thinking. Baby 5. He yelled, flaring his hockey in a particular pattern. He only needed to wait a few minutes before the maid rushed through the door. My apologies for being so slow, young master, she called as he hurried to his side. What can I do for you? Baby 5, please bring me a snail then go find Trebol. Have him bring me the items, then go get Diamante. It's about time we gather the powerful for the ultimate prizes they've been waiting for. After all, the intended mouse is finally approaching. His grin stretched wide. Baby 5, did you know my grandfather had a fishman friend? I did not know that, the maid admitted. He was Dellinger's grandfather, actually. I don't remember him all that well or how they met, but I remember he was a bard and knew how to tell one hell of a story. It might have been part of why my foolish father made the poor choices he did, but that's not what matters. I was simply remembering what he always said when he began a story.
What would that be, young master? This, he paused, his grin widening to show too many teeth, will be very entertaining.